Hello. Welcome to the fifth podcast with Gabe, aka Dear Idiot Reader on TikTok. This was a super fun episode. I really, Gabe was one of the, I think one of my first followers, and I followed him back because we get this into this. I always do this, but we get into this what am I doing? We get into this during the episode. But yeah, he's doing kind of a similar thing to me except for books, so highly recommend his channel. And yeah, I really love this episode. I feel like I have a new friend, which is cool. I said that after the the one with Dominic. And this was also like a pretty meaty episode. I think it's about 3 hours. Nice classic long episode where we go over the movies and everything else. We talk a lot about the fashion, and it was just fascinating picking Gabe's brain about all this stuff. So we watched Anna Karenina 2012, and that's what Gabe picked. He's he reads a lot of books, and he really liked this movie, and so I picked Anna Karenina 1935 by Clarence Brown. The 2012 one is by Joe Wright, which I don't think I had seen a Joe Wright movie, so that was cool. I also hadn't seen a Clarence Brown movie. I think we get into this, so it was exciting because Clarence Brown is a Knoxville. I think he was born in Knoxville and maybe grew up here maybe. But the Clarence Brown Theater in Knoxville, where I live and grew up, is that's I think UT's theater program, or there's also like a theater location called that. Again, I should know. I'm a bad Knoxvillian. But it was exciting to do that. I think this was also maybe the first or second Greta Garbo movie that I watched, so this gave me an excuse, physical media update, to get this nice Greta Garbo collection on DVD that has a ton of her movies. So looking forward to getting that. It's got Grand Hotel and Camille, Ninotchka, Matahari, Queen Christina, Anna Christie, and I think a couple Garbo Silence Collection and Garbo, which I think is like a documentary, TCM documentary on her. So excited to get into all that. It's a pretty cool collection. Gabe is out in Tacoma, and I used to live in Tacoma for 3 years, so that was another just kind of random connection. So that was cool. Let me look at these topics here. We get into impact of literature on personal growth. I tried to spend a little bit more time interviewing Gabe, like the guest. And in the episode that I recorded after this one, I also I'm recording this, closer to release time as opposed to when we recorded it. I get into interviewing my next guest as well, and that'll be kind of like a continuation. That's a weird way to say that. I will be doing that more, like interviewing the guests. So, along with talking about the movies, because I like interviewing people. Kind of want like the Dick Cavett show, Charlie Rose, like any old podcast or show. I always love those. So that's kind of some of the inspiration behind the pod. So we get into exploring Russian literature and its themes, connection between literature and film, like his relationship with when he started reading books. Obviously, we talk quite a bit about adaptations. I did not read Anna Karenina, but as with anything, I'm still fully qualified to talk about it, of course. We get into Garbo versus Keira Knightley, character depth, love and struggle, like Tolstoy's philosophy. This is a real fascinating sort of example, as Gabe will kind of take us through like what the book is versus like what the movie adaptations were, because one interesting thing that we get into the episode is like the book, he says, is like 50-50 split between like sort of the two main characters of the book. Like one is Anna Karenina and the other is, I'm completely blanking on his name, of course, as I record this, but the dude. And the Greta Garbo 1935 one basically doesn't have any of his plotline at all. It's like all just Anna Karenina. But the 2012 one is like probably 75 Anna and 25 the other guy. So we talk about that, which was fascinating to hear. We read Kafka. I was pretty happy about that. Gabe said, I think like one of the things that he really liked was Kafka short stories, got him into reading. And my favorite short story of all time is Poseidon. So I got to share that by Kafka. So I got to share that with Gabe. Talk about like weird tech industry stuff and, AI and set design, costume design. This is a long Fitz episode. So all that is exciting. So yeah, we tried not to be a couple of Tolstoy boys. So shout out to You Know Who You Are. One of my, You Know Who You Are upcoming podcast guest, because they were talking about Tolstoy boys in some reference. And not having realized that like the episode that I just recorded was was me and Gabe talking about Tolstoy. So I might probably call this, I don't know if I'm going to be naming episodes, but definitely going to probably put Tolstoy Boys somewhere in there. And if me and Gabe do again, it's probably the Tolstoy Boys Ride Again. So me and Gabe are officially the Tolstoy Boys. So you know who you are. Still looking forward to interviewing you, and that'll be really fun. So yeah, aside from that, just in sort of the universe of me / the Trade Movies podcast, TikTok channel, wanted to give some channel updates. So I'm currently looking at like how to monetize my channel. I just hit 10,000 followers on TikTok, which, hooray. Thank you to everyone. I really appreciate that. And, the podcast has been growing, got some good views on Fits, and there's a lot of stuff I want to do in terms of movie content. So I'm excited. So I want your feedback. If you are listening to this or watching this or whatever, let me know what you would want to see in terms of like monetization or like special stuff that I might be able to do. Obviously, there's going to be a ton of free stuff, and like I'm always going to be just posting videos because I like making videos and I like posting them. But I was thinking maybe a fun thing to do would be maybe like a movie club. Like if we did like a monthly or weekly or bi-weekly movie club where we got on like Discord or something and I kind of hosted a movie and we all watched it together. I thought that would be like maybe a cool thing where, I could, basically if I started like a Patreon, that's also, please give me feedback on that. TikTok, I can do a subscription via TikTok, which is where obviously most of my followers are, but I can also do a Patreon, which I know is like how most people do it. So I was thinking about doing a Patreon just to have like, maybe not go onto like one specific channel as much. I am working through getting verified and all that stuff to earn money on TikTok. Hopefully, fingers crossed, turns out that turns out well. If you have any tips for like, how to get that, let me know. I don't really know what to sell on TikTok Shop. I think I have a couple of things listed, just kind of funny things, but I don't know if I'm going to really do that. Yeah, I think t-shirt drops. I love movie t-shirts, as we know, and I get a lot of fashion followers. So there are, if you know t-shirt people or like printers, or if you want to work with me, please reach out because I have some good ideas, I think. I mean, who knows? But for some sort of limited edition t-shirt drops that if you wanted to collaborate on, I don't know anything about how to make a t-shirt. So that would be fun to do. Also maybe Twitch streaming. Should I stream on Twitch or TikTok? I think I could stream on this thing and play games on, I don't know, on my Mac, or I could have my PS5. I was thinking because I've been doing a lot of Elden Ring and I've never actually played all the way through Bloodborne. So, because I did my Elden Ring Doris Day Hat video, I figured maybe that would be fun to maybe stream on Twitch or something. I've always wanted to try it. Never done. So yeah, working on some longer form YouTube stuff, as I said, in terms of like channels. So Twitch, TikTok, probably going to be, if you're listening to this, you'll get a sneak preview, probably a video on Donald Campbell first, who is the director of, where did I put that? White of the Eye and, what is that? The Demon Seed. Both these are great movies. He only did like 4 movies. Wild Side, White of the Eye, Demon Seed, and Performance, which he co-directed with Nicholas Roeg, and I think he did a short film that I can't remember the name on. But he's a fascinating director, and because he only did 4 or 5, he's kind of like an easy one to start with for me. I'm definitely, you've probably heard me on the channel, working my way through Delmer Daves, and I'm gonna eventually, once I finish Delmer Daves and all of his 26 or so movies, I'm gonna do a long video on Delmer Daves because I think me and my buddy will probably be one of the very few people on earth to have watched all Delmer Daves movies, including all the ones that don't have a release. Somehow I was able to track all of them down. So definitely going to do a video on that. Takeshi Kitano, Catherine Bigelow, a lot of my favorites. And so yeah, definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll also be posting fits from this episode and that as a standalone. I've also started posting a bunch of stills because I've been sort of ripping stills for my own like collection as like a budding cinematographer, filmmaker. Generally when I watch a movie or like after, like for the channel, I have like my DaVinci sort of wired up to be able to export stills pretty easily. So probably just be posting stuff I like on my Trade Movies podcast Instagram, and also maybe some fits. So definitely follow that. And then as far as, my mouse died. As far as podcast guests go upcoming, the next episodes will be the 7% Solution and the Hound of the Baskervilles as a pairing, which is super excited. I recorded that one, just going to edit it soon. Also going to do The Mirror Has Two Faces and The Razor's Edge. I just watched The Razor's Edge the other day, so we're recording that podcast this week. That is going to be exciting. Then we got Secretary and Crash. I cannot tell you how excited I am for that episode. That is two James Spader classics, erotic thrillers. So that is so fun. The guest on that, you're going to love all these guests. I think they're all interesting people. So excited for that. Because I love Crash. I haven't seen Secretary, but I'm super excited. This is just to confirm, this is the James Spader, David Cronenberg Crash. So we're doing James Spader, Secretary, James Spader, Crash. Then I have a special film journalist guest, exciting, who is watching RoboCop and Predator 2 with me. So that's going to be exciting, kind of doing like early 90s satire, like early 90s like action, satire. I feel like most people know RoboCop, but I've always been a big defender of Predator 2 because it's kind of in a very similar vein in terms of like satirical and kind of like Verhoeven-y takes on American society in like the early 90s. So very pumped for that. Then we got Morgiana. I don't know how to say it. Morgiana and Written on the Wind. So Morgiana is a Juraj Herz Slovakian movie. Looks great. Juraj Herz did The Cremator, which completely wrecked me. A wonderful movie. And I generally have loved everything I've seen from the Czech Republic and Slovakia. So pairing that with another sort of with Written on the Wind, always happy to rewatch a Cirque. Then we got American Psycho and Blue Steel. Super excited for that. Those are going to be sort of two movies dealing with kind of masculinity and gender issues by women directors. Then we have Fool's Fire, which I had never heard of, which is like an early 90s, I think it's like a Julie Taymor TV movie that she did, like the noted theater director. I think she also did Across the Universe and some other stuff, but she's like obviously huge and I think way bigger in theater than she is in film. So we're going to be pairing that with Invention for Destruction, which is, I've never seen a Karel Zielman, the Czech guy, another Czech guy. He's like the main sort of animator that kind of in like a movie maker that inspired Terry Gilliam. I love Terry Gilliam and a lot of his animation style. Then we are doing another awesome, all these are, I'm just so excited for all these episodes, but I'm a Cheerleader and Calamity Jane. So I've never seen But I'm a Cheerleader. I kind of have a gap in my 90s and 2000s, like, LGBTQ movies. So excited to start rectifying that along with Calamity Jane, taking it back to, one of the first portrayals with a lot of queer themes in musicals in the 50s. And then we have 35 Shots of Rum and Duel. So that is Steven Spielberg. So that's Claire Denis, 35 Shots of Rum, and Steven Spielberg's Duel. The fella who I'm doing that episode with, he's cool. He's a TikTok person. He's got a great channel. Really been liking his stuff a lot. And I've only ever seen Beau Travail by Claire Denis, but he has seen a couple Claire Denis movies, but he has never seen a Spielberg movie. He's kind of, I think he's a bit younger than me, which, still crazy to me that he's never seen a Spielberg. So that is one where we're going kind of like two opposite ends of the movie spectrum. I think I don't really know much about 35 Shots of Rum, but from what I know of it, I don't think it's a lot like Steven Spielberg's Duel. So I'm super pumped for that. So that's like, the next like 2 months worth of episodes. These are all, I have these mostly scheduled weekly. So probably we'll start picking up the podcast pace to do weekly. And then this is all super, super exciting. Do I have anything else? I think that's everything. So with that, it's a long intro, but just wanted to give everyone updates and hope you are enjoying it. And enjoy the episode. Love you all.
Throw some colors on the screen and paint me black and white. I want to see a thief in a gunfight or a heroine wounded in love. You can keep her lighted by an old flame left to frame, so I can read the feeling on her face, half in shadow, and know I felt that too. In danger and in love, you've got the dreams I was dreaming of. I've got 2 hours to pretend, so I'll watch a movie with a friend. Time's running sideways, and reality's gotta meet me halfway, so I'll meet it here again. Here's the Trading Movies Podcast with friends.
Hello, everyone. This is Geoff with Trade Movies Podcast, and I'm here with Gabe, aka Dear Idiot Reader on TikTok, who also has a podcast called Mixed Tapes, Feelings, and Drinks. Hello, Gabe.
Hey, how's it going? Thanks for
Good.
having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to talk to Gabe today for the audience. I think he's one of my earlier followers, I want to say. Not that I have like the world's biggest TikTok, but I've gotten some more followers over the last little bit. But I noticed that, just in terms of getting guests, I just been wanting to talk to people that are doing interesting things. I'll probably talk to a bunch of people on TikTok just because, I love TikTok. And so I noticed that he was kind of doing a similar thing content-wise to what I was doing. And so it's both like inspirational because I like the videos, like, if I have his account open right now, and if you look at like War and Peace, Tolstoy, or A Scanner Darkly, or Nietzsche versus Luigi, or Things Fall Apart, I can't even say that name, but there's just like a bunch of these, it seemed like you were doing like a, kind of giving little commentaries on mostly older books, I want to say. At least for me. And it was good for me because I am, I have like a stack of books behind me that I just haven't read. And I definitely am just way behind. My dad got me The Big Sleep yesterday, which I have been wanting to read, but I haven't read because I'm like probably 20,000 books behind where I should be. So yeah, it's is that how you would describe your TikTok? Like what's the account?
Yeah, it's basically excuse me, I'm a construction worker guy, and just turned 40, married, 2 kids, and a couple years ago I just got very depressed about my commute into Seattle. I live in a suburb, Tacoma, but and I
Oh,
was
no
like,
kidding?
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but that's I went to school for 3 years at Puget Sound,
Oh, I
actually.
remember that from one of the episodes. I was like, oh my
Yeah,
gosh, that's
that's
nuts.
crazy. I lived right on 6th Street, right near where the old 7-Eleven was, right near Puget Sound. If you probably know,
Yeah,
like right before it gets into those little bar sections near the
yeah. We were
university.
just out there last night hanging out with some friends on Sixth. That's
That's
wild.
crazy. Yeah, I miss Quickie 2 out there. That's like
Oh
my
yeah,
yeah. If you're ever in Tacoma, audience, is it still there? Hopefully,
I
it's
think
still there.
so. Are you
Yeah.
vegetarian or vegan?
I'm not, but my first college girlfriend was,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah, I just love. It started like a lifelong love of Jamaican food. Actually,
Mm.
randomly, it closed down, but there's a shout out Rocky's Jamaican in East Tennessee where I live. When I moved back, there was a Jamaican place that opened up that was great, and I was kind of like because I went to school there for 3 years, and then I was upset at not having it because I used to go to Quickie 2 like once a week.
Yeah.
I'm not even vegan. I just like, just well after I
Mhm.
stopped dating that girl, it's just like continue. I just love to. They have like this crazy Jamaican burger for the audience with like it's like a seitan burger with plantains and it's delicious.
Yeah, I need
Yeah,
to go there more. I think I've been once, like years ago though.
that's so cool. I didn't know you were in Tacoma. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're a
So
construction worker and getting
yeah,
tired of the commute.
yeah. And so I was like, I need to start. I started with audiobooks, and I was like, I need to start like. I hadn't read a book in forever. Um, And so I was like, I need to learn something or further myself a little bit um, while I've got this dead time in my life driving to and from work. So I started listening to some of the classics, kind of figuring out what I like and what I don't like. And then it kind of became like sort of like therapy for me, figuring out who I am through these books, running across authors that really, really affected me. And it's been as a few years ago. So I try to approach it like I'm not going to, the way I'm going to interact with the work is just going in as cold as I can and then just seeing what I think about it. And it's okay if I'm wrong. Um,
Mhm.
but try to kind of, be open to being wrong, of course, but um, just kind of interacting with the art that way
Mhm.
because I think that's a good way to be, especially like it's so easy right now to research everything about a work. And it's also so easy, and the stakes have never been higher of being wrong because you
Oh
can get
yeah,
like your video could blow up and people are just like, what are you talking about? It's not this at all, you know?
yeah.
And I think there's a previous episode where you talked about Charlie Kaufman,
Mhm. Yeah,
and
yeah. The last
I
one.
love his stuff. Yeah. And the way that he purposely puts his stuff out there. It's like, now it's just to be interpreted. You know, there's no right or wrong. So I really appreciate that about his work, and it reminded me of like why I kind of got into doing it this way, and just kind of like, these are my thoughts on it, and I'm just one person.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that's it adds a little bit of color to you. So now I'm a little bit worried for you because are you commuting from Tacoma into Seattle?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. So you're listening to Russian literature while you're doing like for the audience out there. It's been years, maybe it's better now, but the commute on the I-5 from Tacoma into Seattle is
That's
probably one of the
bad.
most hellish hellish stretches of traffic I think in the
Yeah,
country.
but I'm there very early, so
Okay.
I'm usually missing the bulk of the traffic. So,
Gotcha.
but yeah, I'm listen. I was listening to a broad array of stuff, and then once I listened to some Russian literature, I kind of like latched onto that pretty hard, and
Mm-mm.
started reading it physically, and just I do more physical reading now than audiobooks because I find that I'm kind of running out of the ones that I really wanted to get to and get through on audiobook, and
Mm.
physical reading is a lot more enjoyable, but just who has
What
time.
connected with you so much about the Russian stuff?
Um, Originally it was Dostoevsky, and then now I've been reading a lot of Tolstoy, and I've read some other guys, but it's it's an interesting question. I kind of go into it in one of the videos. It's like, I think they're just very interested in, well, first of all, they were kind of separate from Western Europe in the
Mm.
1800s, and they kind of didn't quite get the full effect of the Renaissance and all these new ideas that were happening in Europe. And then they get backed up into the 1800s, and all these reforms, all these things start happening at once, like the emancipation of the serfs. So basically, all the serfs were slaves
Mhm.
in Russia, and then they got freed. So there's a lot of like, I guess, upheaval over that, and worrying about where Russia was going. There's the women's rights. There's um, just nihilism and atheism coming in from the West. Yeah, from the West, and just kind of struggling with that. I think there's a lot of change in a short period of time, and I think Russians are just like very introspective, and like at least the Russians of the 1800s, very introspective and um, thoughtful people. Maybe not all of them. I'm getting just a small dose of like Dostoevsky and Tolstoy, but they just want to understand. They want that the epiphanies of life, and I love that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't think I've read. I'm trying to remember when I went to school out in Tacoma. I was for at least part of the time a theater major, and so we ended up reading like remember Uncle Vanya. I can't remember who did that, but definitely read some
Okay,
plays. I think I'm pretty underread on all that stuff. Another
I'm
Norm
still
connection.
I'm
Have you
still
read
under.
his book on
Who's that?
Norm Macdonald the comedian? His
Uh-uh.
another connection. He was famously like a big fan of Russian literature, I believe, and so
Oh,
I
okay.
think he did like a autobiography that I've read a bit of. And it's very funny, but it's I believe it's like mostly inspired from Russian literature.
Interesting.
Um,
I'll have to check that
yeah,
out.
that interesting. That and the other one I know is Mel Brooks is which is strangely enough
Yeah.
he's just like a massive fan. I think is of like Gogol, I want to say, and
Okay, yeah.
yeah, a couple of those other guys. So
Interesting. I didn't know that
yeah,
either.
I don't I see that less in his work, but
Yeah.
you know, I think that was one of the I'm trying to remember if he brought that up well, like because he famously produced the Elephant Man by David Lynch, and
Oh,
took his name off it because like he didn't want people to think it was a comedy. But I think like he had wanted to he had seen something I think that reminded him of some of the Russian stuff in Eraserhead. Like he
yeah.
watched uh, Lynch's Eraserhead and was developing the Elephant Man. I was like, yeah, this guy could do it because of just reminded. I think I can't remember the book it was, but reminded him something
Interesting.
about it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it
yeah.
can get very it's just like the highs and lows of human experience, like just
Mm.
the amazing like epiphanies like I said you have in life, and then just the crushing like the worst crap that can happen to you.
Yeah, was this like a return? So for me, it was like, getting into movies. I had like kind of gone away from 'em. Like my day job is like software stuff, and like I just started honestly as part of a diet, like just to kind of like I started doing weirdly I started doing intermittent fasting like a
Yeah.
couple years ago, and so I don't eat until like 7 or 8, and it seems to work pretty well. As far as, well, not too well. I'm not the world's most most thin dude, but works to like keep me at like a decent. My
Yeah.
doctor's pretty happy with it, and so as part of that, it just like the instructions were wait until 7 and then kind of eat slowly for like at least for a couple hours. So I just started watching a movie every day with dinner. Like that was kind of the thing. It's like
Hmm.
won't eat all day and then I'll just watch a movie. And then I ended up just kind of like getting back into movies in a way that like sort of triggered the whole Ratatouille scene from childhood when he's eating the
Right.
ratatouille and remembers his mom's thing or whatever. But the so yeah, it's like I was a writing major in college. At Tacoma, actually, I was a classics major before I
Okay.
got booted out of that school for various reasons. None of them bad. I just, kind of failed out in most classes due to, depression and all that stuff. But the it was kind of like my thesis at Maryville College, where I later went, was on the Coen Brothers, and so that was on the Coen Brothers. And actually, at Puget Sound, you didn't have to do a thesis, but back when I went there, but I almost was like close to graduating with like a classics degree that I then had to like none of it transferred into Maryville because they didn't have a classics program. Like very little of it did, which so I had to like restart a little bit. But the capstone class I did, or capstone paper I did there, was on a couple of different films of Greek literature. I believe it was Pasolini's Medea and like a couple others that I should remember, but I can't. I remember one of them I really didn't like that I think was by Michael Kakianis,
Huh.
and then I can't remember the third. But it was kind of this thing a couple years ago. It was like I used to just be so into movies, and then I just kind of like got out of watching them and stopped watching them. And I had always still wanted to like do filmmaking at some point. So it was kind of a thing of like I just started watching them and
Yeah.
getting back into it. Was this like kind of, so I guess the question for you was like, was this like a return to something that you had like used to do? Like, did you used to read a lot? Did you like go to school for like literature or something, or like yeah.
I read quite a bit when I was a kid, and didn't go to school for it or anything. As a teen and stuff, I loved Kafka. Kafka was like my first like I
Yeah.
feel like there's like three authors I feel like a kinship with. Like there's Kafka, Dostoevsky, and Virginia Woolf randomly. Like I
Really
freaking love Virginia Woolf so much. Um,
fascinating.
and so I had that I had like my things I would read when I was younger and stuff. Like I read all the Redwall books like when I was really young.
Oh yeah.
Like Brian Jakes, like the
Yeah.
fat, like 400-page books that for
The whole
kids.
fantasies with like mice
Yeah,
and stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I read all those when I was really young, and then got
This
depressed when I was
girl
a
I had a
teen.
crush on in middle school. Sorry to interrupt you, but the girl I had a crush on in middle school lived down the street from me, was super into those. So I read one or two. It's
Yeah,
just, you know, didn't work out, but
yeah.
shout out. I can't remember her name, but shout out to you and sixth grade crush who really
Uh,
liked Redwall. Yeah.
yeah. So I never I never read a lot of the classics or like the I just had I fell off like hard. I started working and just like books weren't even on the table. I got married, had kids, and it's just like there's no time for that. You have like such limited time for hobbies and stuff. So once that window of time opened up in my commute, and I realized it was something that was really doing a lot for me personally, I just started trying to do it more, and it's become more of a. And now I think it's helps out a lot too because I actually have something to talk about with my wife. It's like, you
Hmm.
just get into the grind of like day in, day out. We're doing the same things day in, day out. And then you add that like, well, I consume this, idea or media, and this is what I think about it. And she tells me what she thinks about it. And that's been really positive too. So everything, reading, it turns out reading is really good.
Yeah.
Reading's beneficial. I didn't know this. I'm just finding out now.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been great.
So did she read the books along with you?
No, she reads more like some like fantasy, but she's reading read like The Shining recently.
Mhm.
She has a couple of Stephen Kings. She's reading what is she reading right now? Yeah, she reads some different stuff than me. Like she's not reading like Russian literature and stuff, but um and she does read quite a bit.
Did you watch these two movies with her?
I had watched Anna Karenina from 2012 before with her, and she's like, I'm
Hmm.
not watching that again. I don't want to be put in that place right now. And so we watched the Greta Garbo one together, and
Nice.
then I watched the 2012 one alone and cried.
Yeah. Yeah, it was yeah, we'll get into those. I am looking forward to getting into them. Um the what was I going to say? Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about like the having something to talk about. So I'm doing um a video. I don't want to talk about too many of the details, but there's like a project that I'm working on related to a short film that I did, and a part of it is I'm going to talk about the sort of the skepticism I have with using like I can't remember. You know, that's I don't know who exactly has been suggesting this, but like I've heard it. You hear it bandied about with like AI that like oh everyone's going to be able to get their own season of Batman. Like you and I in some future
Oh,
world will be able to be like you know though it'll take our likes like you know likes and interests like let's say I'm more of
right.
an Arnold fan, you're more of a Jackie Chan fan, then I'll give you more of like a Jackie Chan Batman series, I'll give me an Arnold Batman series. I think the people that are suggesting that sort of have a fundamental misunderstanding of the value of art when it
Yeah,
comes to like social stuff, you know, because it's like if I watch my, it's like to me it strikes me as like hearing about someone's fantasy football team. Like if you're not in the like I hate hearing
yeah,
about people's fantasy football team. Like I love like I love sports. Like I'm probably upper tier like diehard like you know, it's probably just a like the one of the many ways my brain is wrong, but like you know, I have like memory for those like stats and players and stuff, and
yeah,
like I love it. It's like it's like yeah, I can't remember dates or anything, but like movie stuff and like movie dates and directors and actors and stuff and sports stuff, and I love it.
yeah.
I watch it like you know I've seen. I used to volunteer coach hockey, but like all that's to say,
You're not going to
I
rattle
can
off stats and pretend that someone else is going to be like, oh wow, yeah, you know.
yeah, yeah. Well, it's like you know, I would, but like I never got into fantasy football or fantasy hockey or anything,
Yeah,
and that's not like I'm not saying it's like I understand why people do it, but the experience of listening to someone talk about something that you have no context for,
yeah,
like in a like that's that sort of specific, I guess, to like the competition of the league, just is like one of the most unbearable things in the world to me.
hmm,
And so I'm imagining like I just think a future state where like you know, you and I take turns telling each other about the personalized Batman series or even like the personalized Anna Karenina series that we
right.
like saw. It's like I just can't see that being a useful like I just don't see how it helps us bond or become friends or like
Yeah.
have any type of understanding about human nature. I don't
No,
know.
I hate the idea of AI. I like I am this is like have you ever seen that there's that trading spouses meme where like the lady's like she's dark-sided. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's me with AI. I am that lady just like I do
Mm,
not trust AI whatsoever. I don't want to see AI images. I don't want to like interact with anything AI. Um, and I think it is like just a very anti-human, like I want to see like I want to be surprised by someone as an individual, like how this person is different from me. And I'm like, I have to try to understand like how do I relate? We're looking at the same thing, but he is completely on a different page than me. That's what like really interests me. And I think AI just like destroys that completely.
yeah. It doesn't seem it seems like um I don't know, it seems like kind of uh so in my day job among many you know different things I've done in software, part of what I've done is like product manager work like where you know I don't know how familiar you or the like listeners out there with like being a product manager, but it's like you know you're it's like generally like you're trying to sort of like, it's probably going to be not a great definition of it, but you are like trying to find out sort of what, like identifying like a target market or whatever, and then figuring like you kind of like sort of back morph your product into whatever like the customer wants or needs or
Yeah.
thinks they want or need the most. So it's like, but it's like, to me it's kind of seemed always like the Wario or Waluigi of art, because like, you know, like it's similar, like you exercise some of the similar, like it's
Yeah.
weird, such a weird thing to be in, because like you exercise like some of the similar sort of creative like juices, even empathy, you know, in some level, but like
Yeah.
you're not designing, you're not, it's not coming from your soul. It's purely about like this sort of, I don't know, platonic representation of like what this object could be. Like if you're selling, I'm trying to think, I don't know, like if you're selling pens or whatever on you know, at some store, it's like, let's say you're selling like Hello Kitty pens. It's like you want to try and find the like the Hello Kitty pen that's going to make the most profit, like for your company, for the most amount of customers, like,
Yeah.
and you're not thinking about like, well, what is my idea of a Hello Kitty pen,
Right.
like what, how do I want to express myself, like through, you know, the art of like manufacturing or like construction or
Hmm.
design or whatever else. It's like, what is going to yield the sort of most maximal amount of profit from the most amount of people, and that we can like, you know, have intellectual property on, and all this other, you know,
Yeah.
BS that's like, that's endemic to it. But I guess like, I don't even know where I was going with this, but
I know what you're
yeah,
talking about because it's like
yeah,
they say, you know, art comes from someone expressing how they feel,
mm,
and a product comes from someone expressing what they think other people want.
interesting. Who's, I need to
Um,
know. That's a great,
I don't know. I think I
if you
heard it
could
on
send me that.
TikTok or something.
Yeah,
I wish I could
that's
credit
a,
the
that's a
person,
great way to put it.
but
I've been looking for a way to put that for
yeah, because
years.
it
That's a
so
great way to
AI
put it.
can't do that. AI can't make art because it doesn't have like an identity, a soul that it's trying to expose for other people to see. It's just
Yeah,
taking information, trying to create what people want.
it can make products.
Yeah,
It's, and literally, I mean, it's like the way they work. It's like it's a next, at its core, it's a next token generator. Like it's, you know, it's you know, I don't know for you or the listeners, but like it's, you know, it's a fancy next word generator. So like,
right.
yeah, to your point, it's like almost predicting what it thinks is the best thing, I guess on a fundamental level, like what the best next character or token or word or whatever
Right.
or idea to put out there is.
What's
Yeah,
gonna be
that's
weird
fascinating.
is when it's trying to figure out what we want, but I don't think it understands yet that we I mean maybe it does in that it kind of might start creating outrage content or something, but if it's making media just on its own, um how does AI understand the characters that we love to hate, or you know
Yeah,
just the you know this, not even hate, like how could AI make something like Mad Men where it's like this is all bad behavior,
yeah.
but it's made in such a compelling way. It's not something we want. It's not anything we want, but it's like um, these people are such full, rich characters that we can't look away.
You know what's the even to me it's almost more pernicious is like, have you heard of the concept of heaven banning?
Oh,
Um, so this is a hypothetical concept that is like technically we're capable of doing it with like existing technology at the moment, but like it would be the idea of what you could do is basically, let's say you are, or me, you know, let's say I was an asshole on Reddit, or like, you know, I was like being an asshole, disagreeing with people, or, you know, yelling at them or whatever. What some companies have proposed is basically putting me in my own alternate version of Reddit that is where everyone agrees with me, and just using LLMs or like, you know, AI or whatever to like to just like,
placate you.
yeah, placate me. And I feel like that is like, that's a level of horror that like I
Oh
can't,
yeah.
yeah, there's just like, if I found out that that happened, and like it almost like made me a little like schizophrenic or something, because like the, I don't know, like I was thinking like, maybe has that happened with, so like, you know, has that happened in certain places that I've been in where like they just immediately like, do they, can they already do it, would I be able to tell? And like, you know, so much
Right.
about the experience of living in America already is pretty alienating.
It's like the
So
algorithm. It kind of does that already. It doesn't keep you from, but
Yeah.
it directs you, herds you into a space, and then you're like think that this one creator is super big for everyone on TikTok, and you're like, have you seen that? I forget which one it was recently. I was like, the guy who's just like does this and this to a song, and I thought he was huge, and like, what are you talking about? And so I was like, oh, I got herded into that for some reason.
He just got sent there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. It's a horrifying. I think the idea of like having our own Anna Karenina, like that just seems like I really truly hope they never do that. I don't think it'll work because like
Right.
I can't imagine that being fun for people,
I
like to
don't think
have your
so.
own. Yeah.
Maybe for like CSI, they could do an AI CSI or something. It's already almost like just sourced from the ether.
Yeah.
Um, but I think there'll always be an industry for human-made things
Yeah.
because we want that.
I hope so. That's probably a good transition to get into these. So this was a fun week of watching of movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, Gabe picked Anna Karenina 2012, and which is, I don't know, I have my little, I don't know if you can, this one, and then
I'm like looking
I
around the corner
yeah,
like an
yeah,
idiot.
I was trying to,
What?
and then I picked Anna Karenina 1935, which made me order this special or this nice Greta Garbo box set. So I
Oh,
was happy. It
nice.
gave me an excuse to do that. But yeah, this was a fun week. I haven't read Anna Karenina. I still haven't read Anna Karenina.
Hmm.
But it was an interesting couple of movies. So why'd you pick Anna Karenina?
Well, originally when you reached out, and I was really pumped to see that you did because I really liked your stuff, and I was like, man, he's right. We do kind of like make the same thing in a different font. My problem with my stuff is I read like an 800-page book and then I get to make like 3 minutes worth of me talking, and so I don't put
Yeah,
out that much stuff. But you were like, "Hey, I'm doing the Trade Movies podcast, and this is my account, and I'm hoping to talk to people who are not so much movie centric, but you're really into books. So would you be interested in being on? What would you recommend for an episode?" And so that's such a good question because traditionally it's like, oh yeah, the people who read the book don't like the movie and stuff. I think that it's very rare that they'll nail a book in a movie, nail the feel of it and the characters. And it's amazing to me that Anna Karenina did that for me, in my opinion, because it's such like a multifaceted book. And
the 2012 one.
yeah.
Mm.
And so I was like, I think this really represents the book well, and I love it. And then after that, you started making content about like, yeah, this is why practical effects are better than, CG and stuff. And Anna Karenina has a lot of practical
Yeah,
stuff, and so that was like, oh, perfect, this will be good.
yeah, yeah. That's cool. I picked the 35 one. Honestly, because yeah, I thought it would be with since you have read the book and a lot of other books of the era. I thought it'd be fascinating to talk adaptations of books versus movies. I actually did that last week. Episode hasn't been released yet. Will be by the time you're listening to this, audience. But we did. I talked with my old professor because he was a reading professor, big reader, and we did All the Pretty Horses by Cormac
Oh,
McCarthy.
cool.
We did the movie version of it. And The Wild Bunch by Sam Peckinpah, which is a fun episode. Um, the But yeah, I thought it was, so it's kind of like, honestly, going back to back with adaptations of books versus movies. I thought it would be interesting. The other reason is the 1935. I haven't seen. This is me being a bad Knoxvilleian, East Tennessean. I have is by Clarence Brown, directed it. He's probably Knoxville's most famous director. There's like a
Oh,
Clarence
okay.
Brown film festival every year. The theater program, I think it's the theater program at UT, is in the Clarence Brown Theater. So he's like a bigwig from the 30s or something, and so I thought good excuse to start my Clarence Brown journey, given that
Yeah.
I probably should know more of him as an East Tennessean. Although I also just bought somewhere in that stack is a book of James James Agee. I wish I knew how to say his name. Film criticism,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was also from Knoxville, and one of the bigger movie critics, I think, of the early middle 20th century, and I haven't read any of his stuff as well. So bad Knoxvillian here, but starting to rectify it with this one.
Yeah.
So how do you like? I guess like getting into the 35 one. How do you like the like? What were your thoughts on that?
I don't think Garbo is the right for Anna Karenina. I
Mm,
think she's like, um, I I wasn't crazy about it as it related to the book. It's like a
mm,
cool period piece movie from that from the 30s. So it had all those sensibilities and stuff, and that like really cool opening shot where there's the officers' dinner and it's like moving along the table as they're doing their salutes and stuff.
yeah, that was a really
That
cool
kind of
one.
stuff is really cool. Greta Garbo as Anna Karenina, I think is so off for me.
Why is
She
it off?
just it just seems she's like a femme fatale or like
Mm.
like dark and broody and like European. I
Yeah,
mean,
I don't think I've seen that many Garbo movies. So this might have been the first Greta
me
Garbo movie
too,
I've
me
seen,
too.
actually.
Yeah, and I was like, okay, I see why she's massive in the 30s and 20s and 30s and stuff because that look and that like sensibility. I just didn't think it matched with Anna Karenina as depicted in the book and then some of the later versions as just kind of this kind of breath of fresh air, just like everyone's drawn to her, bubbly,
Mm,
happy, and then things go from there. People change. But yeah,
interesting.
I didn't connect with her as Anna Karenina. But yeah, it's interesting to see too, like it'd be very easy to look at Anna Karenina and be like, oh, this is a morality play. This is like woman cheats on her husband, bad things happen to her. Another woman marries a guy, has a baby, and good things happen to her. Like it's not really what happens in the book, but it could be very easy to distill it to that. Like this white guy
Really?
in the 1800s, made a book about a woman cheating on his wife. How do we think that's going to play out?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of how the 35 approached it a little bit. Like they leaned a little bit more on like this woman did bad and then this
Mm,
woman did good. So that was interesting to see kind of just how it plays on the times when it's adapted.
yeah. The I thought it was I watched a little bit of the special feature, so I watched the 2012 one last night, and it's interesting you say that. Keira Knightley, there's a little featurette on her as talking about her playing Anna, and she said that it was an interesting challenge for her going into the movie, like because she thought that the book had her a little bit as an like a hero, but also an anti-hero, is like a little bit judgmental. So
Mm-hmm.
in the book, you're thinking like your experience of the book is that it's not necessarily like judging Anna and like I guess sort of valorizing. Is it Lenin? I'm so terrible with names, but
Yeah,
Constantine.
I think what the I think what the book does is Tolstoy is so good at humanizing people. So obviously in the 35 one, Karenin, her husband, is played by Rathbone, right? Basil Rathbone, is
I
that his
think
name?
so. Yeah.
Who is like usually a villain in like the 30s movies and stuff.
Yeah. Although
And so,
interestingly, he's also I believe Sherlock Holmes. I think in
oh,
the
okay,
40s. He's because I just got somewhere in here. I'm doing an episode coming up.
that tracks.
I'm gonna spill all my DVDs here, but so you can see the inveterate. But yeah, he was the Basil Rathbone Sherlock collection, and I believe he was Sherlock Holmes in the I think in the 40s. So
I
upcoming
like him.
episode on that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. I just kind of like I think it's very easy to like simplify these characters, but in the book,
Mhm.
he writes Anna Karenina so well, and it's so relatable, just how trapped she is, and looking at the well, I was about to get in the 2012 one, but just how
No,
trapped
feel
she
free.
is.
Yeah,
Well,
go
just
wherever you
like
want.
the set, how it's it's in a theater. A lot of the St. Petersburg or Moscow scenes are just in the theater, and it's shot as a stage play, but in an empty theater. It's weird if you haven't seen it, but and it kind of like shows how like just kind of claustrophobic and trapped in and like close everything is,
Mm,
and just her realization that she has something she desires that she will can't have unless she blows her life up, and just how that plays out in her thought process in the book is just amazing. And then
Mm.
even Vronsky should be a bad guy, should be just like a bad guy, but he is such a great character too. Just has his own struggles, but he truly loves her, is trying to do the right thing. And Karenin is like everybody's given their space to be human in the book,
Mhm.
and it doesn't come off as like a morality play, like Anna Karenina got what she deserved, you know?
Yeah. So did you besides from the Garbo, like, and this is because I have my thoughts on both movies. Like, did you um like, was it overall like liking the 35 one, or were you like, this is kind of, because I think I like all I watched it with a couple of my buddies, and we were kind of like, like, I think on it, like, it seemed, I haven't seen much other Clarence Brown, but it seemed like the scenes the best scenes in the thing. Like, I think Rathbone was really good.
Yeah.
And then I think like the beginning scenes with the dudes, with like the all the celebration were really
Yeah.
good. And I
That
thought
was
the
so
ending
cool.
scene, the train scene, spoiler alert, not a happy ending for Anna.
Yeah.
I thought that was really well done with like the music and the way he did that. But it seemed like he was kind of, I don't know, it almost seemed like he was kind of out of his element. At least it felt like, to the extent I can sort of tell this from watching one movie. Like,
Hmm.
I'm thinking he reminded me, like, the scenes that he did. I always try and think, I just made a video on, like, like when a director is like, does even a scene in a movie I don't like you can, the scenes that like that they're really good at versus not, kind of help build a sense for me of like what I think they might be interested in or good
Yeah.
at in general. And it seemed like he just, the whole middle of it, where it's like largely more of like romance and drama and all that, it didn't seem like he wasn't hitting the beats, I thought, as well as Joe Wright was in
Right.
2012. It felt
Yeah,
like.
I felt like that too. I was very intrigued by, like, especially by the opening, the officers' dinner, and then they have the gypsies come and start playing and stuff, and
Yeah.
we meet Steve. Seems so weird calling a Russian guy Stever, but uh, and his brother. That was so cool, and yeah, it did feel kind of like we're just kind of going through the motions in other parts of the movie. But yeah, ultimately it's cool. I think I'd never seen a Garbo movie before too, so that was cool. And yeah, I liked her son, her Anna Karenina's son, whoever that little actor dude was
Yeah.
good, because I love in both movies the kind of like that anchor of her son, and she is so like attached to him, so like, it's part of her, obviously, and how that kind of keeps her in the old life while she's just breaking away slowly into her new life.
Hmm.
Just the son as that kind of like anchoring point is really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I yeah, the 35 one, I was like, kind of, it's, I wouldn't really recommend it. The 2012 one, it is a solid recommend for me. I thought it was like, he is a very, very good director. And he's just like, some of the mise en scene, I took a lot of notes about just like the mise en scene and how like they flow between like the choreography and like some of the shots that they do in the take. Like, I think the first stunning one that I really was like, wow, was when they shifted the theater from the stamping scene into the dinner, and it's just
Yeah,
like one long take, and there's a million things going on, and then it ends with them sort of sitting at the dinner, and they like set this thing up. Like, just practically how to film that just seems crazy.
right. Yeah.
um but it's interesting, I did want to, so you said about, I don't know how I feel quite yet in the 2012 one about the setting it in the theater.
Hmm.
I was doing some reading, and I know that was like, I don't know, controversial or whatever, but like, some people had mixed feelings about it. It's interesting you say like, I definitely got a sense of claustrophobia from like it sort of taking place in there. Like, that kind of came through a little. The one thing I thought was that I almost wish he had almost tuned back a bit on the theatricality of it, which is weird to say, because like
Right.
that's part of like his, I could tell, like his his just joie de vivre. I don't know what the hell the word is, but like
Yeah.
his like his sort of thing. and doing the movie, but it almost felt like it was kind of like it was very impressive, but it was almost taking away from a bit of the claustrophobia and like how brutal I felt like we should have felt it should have been for Anna, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Did you like? I guess how did the theatricality play out to you? Like, did you just like?
I
I
think
guess
it,
I don't know. Good
yeah, I
question
think it
about that.
starts really heavy, like, and it's really impressive and really cool. How much it like services the story, I'm not sure, but it's obviously I love a good surreal like series of like scenes put
Yeah.
together. Like when I think it was like right after Levin leaves the dinner party where he's, rejected by Kitty, and then he goes up into the workings of the stage, and it's like squeezing past people who ostensibly are like people on the street of Moscow, but actually are people in um the catwalks of this play of this
Mm.
theater, and then walks into where his brother is laying like dying of tuberculosis.
Yeah.
So I love that. Does it service the story? I think um probably services it in the way that I said before is like Anna just you kind of have her just like hemmed in
Mm.
so many scenes, and then also when the first time we leave the theater is when the curtain goes up and works. It's like Levin just walks out into the Russian countryside
Yeah.
and just kind of showing the dichotomy in the book. There's a big dichotomy between living in the country and living in the city,
Mm.
and Levin's half of the story is really him trying to figure out like what he wants out of life, what he should be doing with his life. And he kind of bounces back and forth between being drawn to isolating himself in the country with and working with the peasants and the people out there and managing his land, and being able to go into the city and make something of himself and do something.
Mm.
And so I think kind of just it's good that there was such a distinction between the two worlds, because that's
Mm.
truly how it feels in the book. So I could see how it would that kind of heightens it a little bit in that way.
How did you feel about the inclusion of Levin's? Because I think he's excised that whole storyline from the 1935 one. I believe. Like, I don't think there is. I don't even think he might be in the movie for a minute,
Yeah,
but I don't
that
think
was
it's like.
wild.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd be curious. Like, to me, this is coming from not having read the book, but like from a movie perspective, it almost makes more sense to me. Like, if I were to adapt this, I might make the same choice. Not
To
like come
excise Levin.
to excise like well,
Yeah,
just from like a because when watching the 2012 one, like I wasn't as like it would have. I think that like I kind of wish that would have almost got its whole movie, like its
mm,
own sort of like movie. Like I think there's. I'm trying to think of the way I would do it if I was to adapt it. I think like I would probably make it like 3 hours long or three and a half. Like I would go crazy
right.
with it and then just like spend more time just sort of existing in this place in a way like the movie Giant or I just actually watched another movie. It was actually a pretty fascinating week to watch this as well. Been fortunate on the last couple episodes to sort of watch thematic movies just sort of randomly, but yesterday I'd watched The Leopard. I don't know if you've ever seen.
Oh no, I've never seen it.
So it's kind of a similar. It's sort of like imagine Anna Karenina, but instead of Anna Karenina, it's like Burt Lancaster as an Italian prince,
Yeah.
and so it's like it's him feeling sort of stifled in like the system, and it's like 3 hours long. I think it's one of Scorsese's 10 favorite movies. So it was okay. Like it was kind of just almost like a nothing 3 hour.
Hmm.
Like I think it's 205 minutes or 195 minutes or something. But yeah, just kind of like it's very literary. And so I think like if I were to do it, I would do that. Or I could see why they kind of excise the Lenin plotline from the 35 one because it's like I don't know, but I guess like were you happy to like you said it was like kind of a surprising choice. Like is it so fundamental to sort of the book like that storyline as
Yeah.
well, like the play between the two?
The book is basically like 50-50 Anna's story and Levin's story.
Really?
And yeah,
'Cause the
and
movie's not even that, right? The movie's like
yeah, not
75,
even.
25 maybe, even the 2012 one.
Yeah, and I think why Tolstoy decides to basically Levin is kind of autobiographical, like um, of himself. Why he decided to put Anna's story with Levin's story is the same thing as like I think he just kind of had to for himself to be able to write it. It's kind of the same
Mm.
thing with like War and Peace. Why did he? You could tell he really wanted to, like, he's a huge history buff, Napoleonic War buff, and he really wanted to tell what he thought happened. And he also is like, I'm also going to tell this story of these families. Why he had to do those together, why they couldn't be separate books, I don't know. It's like his stuff is just kind of like that. I think he's like, you know, the dichotomy between those two things kind of like give insights into one another. Like, um, Anna has love from everyone, and it's just, love will eventually destroy her.
Mm.
Levin is trying to find love. And I think where they kind of cross over is codependent relationships.
Mm.
And because so much of this book is about love. And in the movie you see when Vronsky and her husband meet while they think she might be dying of fever after she gives birth to Vronsky's kid. And
Mm.
she brings them together and makes them hold hands over her. And then Vronsky just like collapses into him and starts crying. Like the change that happens in Karenin after that is pretty severe. He's much more loving towards her and stuff.
Mm.
The book is just kind of a meditation on how love plays out, and how when we know what happens to Anna's character in the book. Levin gets married to Kitty, and the book kind of continues with his story, and he has a kid, life's going great, and he's got really dark thoughts and suicidal ideations, and he's trying to figure out why. So marrying Kitty that love didn't solve his problems.
Mm.
Um, and he has to figure out like, and that's kind of what the movie doesn't get into. We get a little bit of like Levin's, like he has like an epiphany or something when he's wakes up on the bale of hay and sees Kitty riding through the countryside.
Mm.
But that's very Tolstoy. Tolstoy is like, these are the things that I think are real that I found out through my life. I'm trying to express how I came about finding those things. And he does it through Anna and through Levin, I think. But yeah, it's weird. All of his stuff is kind of split like that.
That's interesting. You reminded me. I think they excised. That's speaking of excising. I think they excised the whole daughter from the 35 one as well, right? I don't think she has the kid with
Kitty?
Vronsky. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. The Anna, I
Oh,
don't think
yeah,
has her
yeah.
second kid with. That was a kind of a surprise to me because I watched the 35 one first, and then a couple days later, the 2012. I was like, oh, she has another kid because I don't think she has one in the 35 one.
No.
Yeah, I
Was
wonder
that
if
like
that
a
was like
Hays
a.
Code thing?
I don't know because it's 35, so it was like right on the. I think it's like that was right. I think Hays Code was 34, so maybe,
Hmm.
possibly, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because it
Kind
was
of
a
like had like
lot
a
more,
pickup period, I think.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love both sides of that story. I think some people bounce off of the Levin part because um, it is kind of a departure from like the excitement of Anna's story. Um, it kind of is showing him like he's going to the city and going to like a political action meeting and stuff, and he like hates it and doesn't understand why he's there. And like we kind of have to go through like Levin stumbling through life in order to
Mm,
understand his revelations in the end.
mm,
So we kind of have to be there, like, kind of bored with him, like kind of like, why am I reading through this? He's thinking, why am I here?
mm.
And
It's
by the end of the
interesting.
book, we kind of like pull it together with him.
That kind of does. So I will say, probably the weakness I think of both movies, um, sort of you describing that kind of made me think. I wonder if it's. Now I really want to read the book, add it to the many books I need to read. But I kind of wonder if it's like, is he portraying sort of like two sides of the sort of like two sides of like a man and a woman struggling against like the gender expectations and like the
Yeah.
expectations of like their whatever, and maybe that's sort of like the thing of like Constantine doing it in like this very, if you said he's like having suicidal ideation and like all this, like if is he struggling against like the sort of things that the prison of the patriarchy and masculinity, right? Of like how it traps dudes as well as it does women, right? Like he's struggling. It sounds like he might be struggling against like, if he's like a more sensitive guy, if he's like trying to figure out what is proper in life, what is love, like what does he actually want from things. If he's trapped as much as that, I would say that probably would be maybe a reason that I wasn't totally, I guess, gung ho about including that in at least the Joe Wright one, because it gets into that a little bit, but it's more of a love, like he focuses more on the love. I think the love story, and I think based on the way you're describing it, now I super want to read it. I almost wonder if it would have been better to portray the various like ways that like a man would have like, or like a man would have more I guess struggle against like the expectations in that time, because I thought that was kind of a weakness of both movies, in that I didn't really, the male characters in both of them, I didn't necessarily have like, I thought Basil Rathbone as the husband seemed like he was the best, but I kind of like was struggling a bit with Vronsky in the 2012 one and in the 35 one, and then I was struggling a little bit with Jude Law in the 2012 one, as far as like it didn't seem, I don't want to be one of those like guy gets on a podcast and says Anna Karenina should be about the dude, but like I guess it would have been stronger. It seems like both movies would have been stronger had there been more, I guess, sort of like if they were I don't know, just more fleshed out characters, both with Lennon and I think the Vronsky in the 2012 one, because like I think Aaron Taylor Johnson in the 2012 one, like I didn't really get a sense of him. I don't know. Maybe that's my complaint with Aaron Taylor. But then I was thinking towards the end of the movie, I was like, well, maybe it's good I didn't really get a sense of him, because like I was thinking like if I'm Anna Karenina, then like it really almost doesn't matter who the guy is, because like I think her larger struggle is against like society's expectations of her and the prison that she feels. So it almost doesn't even matter who the guy is. Like, so I almost like, but in that sense, I think then I would say, well, Joe Wright maybe spent a little bit too much time on sort of the love aspect of it, as opposed to like the struggle for independence and struggle for like not wanting to be part of the system aspect of it, if that makes sense. So
and what's missing in the 35 version is when Levin proposes to Kitty, and Kitty's like, no, I don't know, man. Like, that's such a huge deal back in 1870 Russia, like a girl just coming onto the scene, and it's kind of kept track of like who's proposed to her and who she's denied, and then it's his pride's involved. He's like, oh no, I don't think anything of it. You'll never see me again. Just because she's like, I don't think so. The 18-year-old girl, is like, I don't want to marry you right now, dude. And he kind of has to get over that and kind of figure out what's actually important in life. Like you said, these societal, like these things that they're both running up against. Anna more so, but he kind of does do that.
That probably was my favorite sequence, I think, in the Joe Wright one, just in terms of like brilliant filmmaking. Like the whole sequence as Vronsky is falling for Anna at the ball, and it kind of is cutting back and forth between Kitty and Anna, and you got to see it's like sort of the just wonderful storytelling via dance of just like Vronsky falling out with Kitty and then falling in love with Anna. Yeah. Now it makes me, I kind of wonder, there's been a ton, how many versions of Anna? Like there's probably been 30 versions of this, right?
There's one in the 40s, there's one in the 70s or 90s. There's one in the 90s I haven't seen. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it plays out.
There's a 10-episode BBC series from 1970, 1977.
Cool.
Yeah, looks like it has Stuart Wilson, who I really he was in The Age of Innocence, another great one of these. I know him. He's the bad guy in The Mask of Zorro, one of my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I think he's the bad guy in Lethal Weapon 3, and he's the dad who falls from the cliff at the beginning of, I think it's like Terminal Velocity or something. Okay. He's a great little he was one of those many British guys who was like a highly regarded stage and screen actor, and then became a villain in the 90s. Looks like a 97 one with Sean Bean as well.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, and I forget who Anna was in that.
Alfred Molina. Yeah. I'm surprised they haven't done like a modern show of it. This seems like
Yeah,
ripe for like a mini series or something.
they did a miniseries of War and Peace that was good. Paul Dano and shoot, who else? Who was in that? Blonde girl that was in uh Pride and
Elle
Prejudice
Fanning.
and Zombies, I think.
She seems
I
like
think Elle
she's in all
Fanning
that
was in
stuff.
that. I can't remember though, but that was really good. The soundtrack, the score for that was super good.
BBC One. Paul Lily James.
Lily James, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I haven't seen that. I didn't even
Yeah,
know
that's
about this.
good. But yeah, as far as like other Russian adaptations, Dostoevsky hasn't been like there's been a Crime and Punishment with like Crispin Glover that I want to watch. That was like
Really?
a while ago. But it's got horrible reviews, but I still I wanna check it out. But Dostoevsky's stuff hasn't been adapted at all. Like there was a one of his short stories was made, The Double, with the Jesse
Mm.
Eisenberg and Mia Wachowski, but um yeah, a lot of Russian stuff just has no adaptations and you
Have
know.
you seen the 60? I have this. So this, I think I have it on. I think Criterion put it out. The 67, 66 War and Peace. That's like, I think it's
Ooh,
4 hours. It's
I haven't seen that.
so. I think it's yeah. I think it was like the Have you heard any of like thing about it or anything?
Uh-uh.
It's probably the most crazy. From what I've heard, it's the most craziest production in history. Like I think they had. So it's filmed between 61 and 67. I'm just reading the wiki here. The Soviet army provided hundreds of horses and over 10,000 soldiers as
Oh.
extras, and it cost the equivalent of like 60-70 million dollars in 2019. Most expensive film made in the Soviet Union, and it's 431 minutes split between four parts. So I think that's like 8 hours or something. How that's almost 8 hours, right? It's like
Wow.
seven. That's a little over 7 hours. And I've seen some screen like some clips from it, and yeah, it's like you can really. It's probably I just watched Spartacus like a week or two ago, and that was I don't know if you've ever seen that one, but the war
I
scenes in
haven't.
Spartacus, they must have had thousands and thousands of like actual people there, and it's super
Yeah.
impressive. But this this kind of takes the cake as far as like any clip of anything I've ever seen. So
Mm-hmm. We'll
definitely,
have to check it
maybe we'll
out.
have you back on to that'd be a fun. We might just have to do one movie for that if it's like 7 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. War and Peace is that's like I said, it's him being like, okay, here's my history of the Napoleonic Wars, but also like this family stuff because I know you guys want that.
Yeah, gotcha. He's
Um,
doing it. One for me, one for you.
yeah, because at the
Yeah.
end, it's so crazy because at the end of War and Peace in the epilogue, he's like, okay, you got through this 1300 and some page book. Now I get to talk to you for a while about free will and if it exists or
Okay.
not.
Kind of
So
doing
like,
the Red Atlas Shrugged, but doesn't she have like a there's like a 95-page monologue or something in
oh
there that the
really?
guy has? I think so. I know that. Yeah.
I read The Fountainhead, but I haven't read Atlas Shrugged. I know all
I've not
about
read
like
any.
yeah,
Yeah.
I got thoughts on Ayn Rand, but
Yeah, I'm not exactly a libertarian, so I was,
right.
you know.
But
Yeah.
yeah. What was I saying? Ayn Rand.
Sorry, I keep interrupting.
No, that's okay.
A War and Peace, so he talks about like free will. I think you
Oh
were saying
yeah.
like at the end.
Yeah, his just like kind of meditations on it and just kind of where he's at with what he thinks it is and if we have it or not. And then at the end of Anna Karenina, it's Levin's kind of like realization what he wants to live for. And as Tolstoy aged, he got more and more spiritual. And so you can see less of it in War and Peace, which was written earlier, and then more of it in Anna Karenina.
Mm.
And kind of Levin's path that he chooses. He's trying to constantly like battle in his head between reason and feeling. And Tolstoy just really writes that really well. You can tell he's like writing like his own personal reasonings on it through this character.
Mm.
And I think it's really interesting. It's like been influential because like everybody thinks, oh, he fell off after Anna Karenina. He didn't really do anything important after that. He just started writing like kind of essays on religion and spirituality and morality and stuff, which I love. I love that kind of stuff. And um, as he gets older, he just like gets kind of more and more like he was excommunicated by the church and also on like a watch list from the Tsar because um, he is just like so anti everything except for like he's like this is what I think the truth is. I found the truth in this, and this is the only thing that matters. And um, the he died before the revolution, but the communists kind of like was like, because he spoke out against the revolutionaries. He's like, anybody who uses violence to oppress, whether it's the Tsar or the revolutionaries, is wrong. And so
Yeah.
he's very anti, and Gandhi was influenced by him in his anti-violence protests.
I think I wrote a note about that in the 2012 one where I didn't wasn't happy that they were going after the leftists. I was like, come on now, like you gotta. But I guess that's probably
What they do in the 2012 one to the left?
I'm trying to. There was a note. Well, it's just
Oh,
one scene. I think
was it his brother?
it might have been. Yeah.
What like
Well, oh, you know what it was? It was his brother saying like he doesn't. We don't believe in romantic love or whatever. It's
oh,
like it's
and
like we should only do this or that or the other thing. And I was like, come on. It's like I was, to the extent I consider myself a leftist, a little
uh-huh.
hopeless romantic me. I'm like, come on,
Yeah.
give us a little more. We like a
Yeah,
little love.
that could be a criticism of Tolstoy because he was like very wealthy. He was like
Mm,
a big name in Russia. Like he had estates and just rich dude writing, and he writes really well and he captures people's feelings and stuff. But it's the distinction between him and Dostoevsky is like Dostoevsky was like kind of middle class and
mm,
then basically like ditched his career path that he had going to pursue writing, was doing okay at it, and then got caught up in a utopian socialist revolutionary ring and sentenced to death.
oh wow.
And then was commuted last minute, but he had to spend 4 years in Siberia. Like all this crap happened to Dostoevsky, and Dostoevsky writes from like the position of like prostitutes and like students who like don't have any money. And it's a very different point of view than Tolstoy's books,
Mm,
which are much more like society and like families. And there are, he does have people of like lower class that he writes, but not like destitute people.
yeah.
So that could be a criticism is like but at the end of his life, he's like gave away all of his stuff, like most of his like estates and his wealth and stuff. He gave it away because he believed he's basically considered like a Christian anarchist. He was like you can't go to
Mhm.
war, you can't kill anybody, you can't even vote. You just need to like give away your stuff. And so
That's
very
interesting.
interesting guy.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I guess when you're that's kind of a question of like adaptation, like right, like what do you choose? Because obviously it's like a 400 or 500 page book, isn't it? I'm trying to remember
I
how
think it's like
exactly.
I've got one here actually.
It's
I
not
think it's like
exactly.
800 and
Oh my goodness. Okay.
no, that's essays.
860
That's essays. Hold up.
864 it says on the Wikipedia.
Okay. Yeah. Depends on what
See the
book you get, I guess.
yeah the so I guess it's like a question. I guess that would be more I think like contextless. I guess with more of a that would be more of a criticism of Joe Wright, sort of for me at least. Like I don't know, including that, but it's not really. I was just more sort of you know I guess at that I don't know, just like kind of chuckling at that, given sort of my own feelings on it. I guess
The
in terms of
the communist
oh,
thing.
sorry. Yeah, just like
Yeah.
it's just like we let it's like we don't believe in romantic love or whatever.
Hmm.
But it was just like you should see my experiences on Hinge, and I'm a leftist. Like, come on. I guess like the so in terms of adaptations, like when you're looking at a book like Anna Karenina or War and Peace or anything like this, like we talked about the inclusion. So I'm coming at it from like the inclusion of like or from like a movie perspective, I guess, of like I would almost like I probably would either choose to excise the Lenin story and just go with Anna and make it like a tight 90 tight 200
Hmm.
minute movie, or tight 90 tight 2 hour movie, or go longer and like kind of spend more time on both
Right.
of them, probably go closer to the 50-50. So I guess when you're looking at like, or experiencing a movie, one of the things I'm trying to get into on the cast is just the different ways people experience or like movies or
Yeah.
whatever. So like, is it just like, if you're coming from the book first, are you like kind of just happy to see some of the Lenin stuff on screen? Like, is it, are
Yeah,
you,
I think
yeah,
I am kind of looking for Tolstoy's ideas to get across, and just kind of like the feel of the characters, I think too. I think
interesting.
they feel right. And I think they stopped short of like showing Lennon's whole story, but I get that. I totally get that.
Hmm.
Um, and just kind of, it's hard. I mean, hard to capture Anna's like descent into madness where she just starts getting more and more paranoid. She starts kind of like feeling like she swings from like, I don't care. I don't care. This is who we are, we are going to go out, we're going to show them, to like just crushing like all eyes on her. Like the scenes at the end where it's like obviously I love how the movie slips in and out of surrealism. Obviously no there's no point where everyone in the theaters turned and frozen looking at Anna, but that's how she felt at that
Hmm.
time. And then when she leaves the theater and is walking through like the catwalks and stuff through the people on the street in Moscow, the people's facial expressions are kind of like they could be looking at her, they could be like frozen looking past her, but it's kind of up to her. She sees a boy, and that reminds her of her son. I think there's a lot of like shorthand in this that kind of allowed it to create a 2 hour movie out of an 800 and some page book. I think that was very well done. It's not going to be perfect, but as far as like book adaptations, it's hard to do.
Is this your favorite book adaptation of like all the stuff you've
I
read?
would say Scanner Darkly is probably right there with this. Um, I loved that movie. I think it fits the book really well. The book has one point in particular where I thought was the most like poignant point of the book, but they weren't able to capture that in the movie. That's just kind of how
Mhm.
I felt. But there were other aspects of it that visually just tied the story together a lot more. I don't know if you've seen it, or like
No, I haven't
it's
seen it or
like
read the book.
it's it's
It's Philip
really
K.
good.
Dick, right?
Yeah. And so it's
Yeah.
basically this guy who is like a narc agent, um, but his job is got to infiltrate this group of friends and figure out where the drug's coming from. So he just becomes a user, hanging out with these guys in his house, and then he leaves the house and goes and monitors himself and the guys hanging out, just to kind of figure out, try to piece together a case against him and these guys. And then at some point, he splits into two different personalities and he's watching himself. He's aware that it's himself, but he's also trying to figure out what he's doing. And
Hmm.
it's a real trip of a movie. It's like Philip K. Dick wrote about like the days where he would like be hanging out with all of his friends, and like a lot of those friends died from drug overdose or died from like health influenced by drugs and stuff. And just it it kind of captured how messed up these lives are, but how like also these things that they get into or like the friendships that they have are so weird and interesting that it just like kind of makes up for it. And I
Hmm.
think that really it gets captured well in the movie.
That's cool. What's the first movie, or I guess actually for book, like you said you had read like like a couple, like one of the things you called out was Redwall. Like I guess as like a sort of your teen adult self, what's like do you have like a first book that you remember reading that was like, this is the first thing I loved, is like Big Gabe, as like, sort of
Yeah.
like,
Um, I think it'd probably be Kafka's short stories. It really stuck with me, and I
I love his
just,
short stories.
yeah, so
Yeah.
good. I just always go back to a description of a struggle. Just kind of, that's the first time I saw real surrealist writing and kind of like existentialism, just kind of like, I didn't know what existentialism was. And then I was like, oh, just give me all of that I can find.
Mm.
And just that it hit me at the right time too. It was like, I think Kafka had body dysmorphia. And like, I think
Hmm.
I had a good upbringing, but I think I struggled with that too. And just kind of just relating with somebody who's now dead, that's almost easier, it's almost easier to like, I wouldn't really want to go back and hang out with Kafka. I'd rather have the Kafka that I've made in in my mind, because we're
Yeah.
buddies. Like he gets me, I get him. I'm almost him, basically. So
Yeah.
that's the feeling. That's the first time I felt that from a writing or an author.
Yeah. That's fascinating. I never had considered that. I haven't read a ton of them. I think I read the Metamorphosis way, years and years and years ago. I started rereading it again, but last year, and then I just forgot about it because I'm not a good reader. Um, but the my short story, the one that I go back to is his Poseidon is like my favorite.
Oh, I haven't
Probably my
read that
favorite.
one.
It's really short. It's like a page, but it's just it's like just Poseidon. He's the god of the sea, but he's just consumed by paperwork, and he never gets a chance to actually like basically do anything in the sea. And so it has like this. Let me see if I can. I was actually going to make a video game on it. I had made a game. We could probably just go ahead and I'll give you a live reading of it on the pod because I think it's like literally 3 paragraphs.
Okay.
Poseidon sat at his desk doing figures. The administration of all the waters gave him endless work. He could have had assistants, as many as he wanted, and he did have very many, but since he took his job very seriously, he would in the end go over all the figures and calculations himself, and thus his assistants were of little help to him. It cannot be said that he enjoyed his work. He did it only because it had been assigned to him. In fact, he had already filed many petitions for, as he put it, more cheerful work, but every time the offer of something different was made to him, it would turn out that nothing suited him quite as well as his present position. And anyhow, it was quite difficult to find something different for him. After all, it was impossible to assign him to a particular sea, aside from the fact that even then the work with figures would not become less, but only pettier. The great Poseidon could in any case occupy only an executive position. And when a job away from the water was offered to him, he would get sick at the very prospect. His divine breathing would become troubled, and his brazen chest began to tremble. Besides, his complaints were not really taken seriously. When one of the mighty is vexatious, the appearance of an effort must be made to placate him, even when the case is most hopeless. In actuality, a shift of post was unthinkable for Poseidon. He had been appointed god of the sea in the beginning, and that he had to remain. What irritated him the most, and this was chiefly responsible for his dissatisfaction with his job, was to hear of the conceptions formed about him, how he was always riding about through the tides with his trident, when all the while he sat... yeah... When all the while he sat here in the depths of the world ocean, doing figures uninterruptedly, with now and then a trip to Jupiter as the only break in the monotony. A trip, moreover, from which he usually returned in a rage. Thus he had hardly seen the sea, had seen it but fleetingly in the course of many hurried ascents to Olympus, and he had never actually traveled around it. He was in the habit of saying that what he was waiting for was the fall of the world. Then, probably, a quiet moment would be granted in which, just before the end and having checked the last row of figures, he'd be able to make a quick little tour. Poseidon became bored with the sea. He let fall his trident. Silently he sat on the rocky coast, and a gull, dazed by his presence, described wavering circles around his head. That's
So good.
That's my favorite.
That is a perfect intro to Kafka too. It's like,
Yeah.
the person wants this, and then all these things are thrown at them.
I had to take a knee when I first read it because, like, just again, like, if you want to describe the job of working in like software or honestly any job in America, like, I'd like my coworkers of like, I'd had coworkers who get mad at me about like, why aren't we fixing this bug or the other bug? And it's just like, so they would imagine just that idea of like imagining that I'm off doing this, and it's like I'm actually just going to fucking meetings all day. It's like that's the reason we're not. It's like I'm not even doing. I wish I was riding around the sea in my trident or like, doing all these fun things. I'm actually just in meetings and figures, and I can't even assign myself to a particular piece of like the app or whatever. It's just because like that can't be right because like I'm not that I'm king of the sea, but like I was managing the product, so it's like. Yeah, this is a disaster, me reading that story.
God, really it's so good. I think it's like it's amazing that he wrote the trial back when he did, and it's just gotten more and more like everybody can relate. It's bonkers. I love A Hunger Artist, his short story. That I can't remember if that was released.
Read that, I should say.
After his death or before his death, but it was when he was dying of tuberculosis and he couldn't eat. He was because his throat or something was so swollen or so painful he couldn't eat, and so he wrote about this circus sideshow guy who would just starve himself for the crowds. And till to the end, he's so
Brutal.
Kafka. I love that dude so much.
Yeah, he's great. I had in my thesis on the Coens, because like I think you can trace like a direct line through. He's probably like the first. David Foster Wallace has a great, I think, essay on his humor.
Hmm.
That's in a couple of books on that of his like nonfiction stuff. But he's so funny. I mean, the body did, like, I can totally get. I mean, even in this, I was laughing as I was reading it. The just the like him imagining something besides the sea was making him sort of have a panic attack,
Yeah.
having a panic attack, just like that. But yeah, there's like a direct line I think from that to like a lot of 20th century. Like he seems like the first, like some of the way he does, character wanting something and not getting it, like it's like from that I can draw. You feels like you can draw that straight line from like that to like Larry David, Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Like, all the writing and anytime Larry tries to talk to anybody,
Hmm.
that's cool. So Kafka was your guy, like
Yeah.
the first one. Yeah,
Yeah. Latched onto
that's
that pretty hard. Did you have one that, when you were younger?
I'm trying to think of the writer. That's a great question. Probably. This is going to be very normie of me, I guess, but like for my age and generation, but it might have been David Foster Wallace, probably like maybe freshman, like maybe senior year of high school or freshman year. I had read a supposedly fun thing I'll never do again. The his essay, like journalism article. I've never read actually his fiction, so that's like a weird. Like I
Okay.
never like Infinite Jest supposed to be really good. I want to read it. Kind of scared too because I know
Yeah.
how sad it'll make me. My brother read it and said it was super super sad. But I like all of his nonfiction I've read, and he took a trip on a cruise ship. That's the supposedly fun thing I'll never do again, where they just sent him newspaper or journalism magazine like editors seem like such assholes because like they just basically sent him different places to go get depressed and write about it. It seems like was like the gimmick. But his his one where he goes on the cruise ship and talks about the experience of like just being on the cruise, and it's like kind of returning to like being a baby, and like he's like it's really struck me the way he talks about the way he talked about the way people talk about going on a cruise, like I had to go on a cruise, like they always say like I had to do it.
Yeah.
Like it's just like it's not like I wanted to do it, it's like, oh, I just had to. You say he's like, it's such a pampered environment for him, like where it just felt like being like sort of returning to being swaddled or something. It was just
Yeah.
interesting, and even like the idea of you're floating in the ocean and this like just all like the sort of birthing metaphors that he used in it I thought were fascinating.
I'll have to
So
look
then
at
I read
that.
a whole
I'll find that.
yeah. It's I've never been on a cruise, but there's a there's a Turner Classic Movies cruise I might go on
Oh,
later
that'd be
this
cool.
year. Yeah, I really want to. They have like, it's probably, if I go on there, it'd be like me and like probably 100 people who are like 1,000 years old, because like I was looking at the schedule for last year, like they interviewed Kim Novak last year and I think she's like 91, 92.
Oh, wow.
But it seems like a really cool cruise, but all these the people, all the like movies they're showing are like movies that I haven't even heard of, and like
Really?
I like like a lot of like there's there's some, but like it's like a lot of like I thought I was liked movies or knew a fair amount of old movies, and like I feel like I do. There's a lot of blind spots, but I feel like I generally have a pretty good sense of it. But like the movies they're playing are like, these are for some real like stuff that I haven't
Oh,
even like
interesting.
heard of. So
That's
yeah,
wild
maybe I'll
that
go on that.
they wouldn't just play the hits, you know?
There's some
That's
hits
cool.
for sure. Yeah, I wonder if I can see what they I found like a PDF of what they
Is
played
it
last
a
year.
Caribbean cruise? Or
It is, the last year they did That's the other reason I don't know if I'm going to go on this year, because I'd rather go. Last year they did like a West Coast one where I think it's like San Diego and Western Mexico or Baja California. But I think this one is like, this year is going to be like the Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
But they did, so they have like Dr. No. They have a day it's like Dr. No, Live and Let Die, Gilda is like a day. It's like, I know all those, 2 James Bond movies and Gilda. But then they have A Day at the Races, Flying Down to Rio. Day at the Races, 1937. Flying Down to Rio, 1933. Test Pilot,
Wow.
1938. The Bride Came COD, 1941. My Man Godfrey, 1936. Shadow of a Doubt. I mean, that's Hitchcock. But Jewel Robbery, 1932. The Clock, 1945. Gene
Wow.
Engel's, 1957. They do have like West Side Story and Cinderella Man and The Parent Trap, but it's the 1961 Parent Trap. Clash by Night, 1952. The High and the Mighty, 1954. Vivacious. Like, I don't think I can name
Yeah.
the
That's
directors in a lot of
interesting.
this. Yeah.
Because even more so because now like TCM like we think about from our childhood and it's like it's all those movies and now it's like you
Yeah.
look at the TCM is it like a channel on HBO or on Max or something
I
I
think it
believe
is.
and it's like wait they're movies from the 80s what like 70s and 80s
Yeah.
and that's a
Yeah.
trip.
Yeah. I was thinking the Wild Bunch. Yeah. The last episode, it's like 50, 55 years old now, 1969. Doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily. Clarence Brown is probably, or Clarence Brown, the Anna Karenina, probably going to be in the public domain in like 5 years. I think
Oh
1935.
wow.
I think it's the ones from 1930. I think are entering the public
That's
domain now.
right.
So
Wow.
kind of makes me worried about film preservation. If I don't know, if that's good or I hope it's good because I hope people are still preserving it. But I know like I'm hoping that there's still like an economic reason through Blu-rays or DVDs or whatever for people to still
Yeah.
restore the old ones. I don't know how any of that works.
Yeah.
I get anxious about everything though.
I don't collect movies, but I collect vinyl and then just books, but I'm not very precious about it. Like I'm I don't have the fear that that stuff is going to go away as much as I would have a fear that movies and stuff are going to go away.
Yeah, we've already lost so many,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Like it's crazy that John Ford. We've lost a ton of John Ford movies.
Yeah. Was,
He's like
was there something lost in the fires in California this last time too?
probably. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Anytime there's a fire out there, generally there's like a lot of old movies that also because
Yeah.
film's so flammable
Yeah.
of that age that it generally goes up and we lose some stuff. Um, yeah. How would you like how would you so like how do you rate movies in general? Like do you have like are you on Letterboxd or Goodreads?
Yeah.
Like do you have like a 1 to 5 scale?
I don't
What's your
like
system?
I don't like I'd rather write like a short essay about, or not even an essay, a couple paragraphs about something than rate it 1 through 5. But I do.
New Yorker style. They don't give like the stars, right? It's
Oh,
always
okay.
just order.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but I do rate I kind of it's for me. It's not like an object. It's a subjective. Like it's not like this is
Hmm.
a good film. It's like this is I like this.
Hmm.
So it's like I love Fallen Angels. Wong Kar-wai is a guy I've been diving into his
Nice.
movies.
That's how
Oh
serendipitous.
yes. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I have my Chungking Express shirt on today. I was trying to figure out
I kept
what
reading,
movie.
trying to read the top of that, and I was like, "What shirt
Yeah,
was that?"
I was trying to figure
That's
out
so cool.
what. Yeah, I figured I did because that's about like lost. I don't know if you've seen Chungking.
Yeah,
Very yeah. For those of you out there, it's very. Don't ever watch a Wong Kar movie if you're lovesick.
yeah,
Won't go well for you.
yeah,
Uh, but I figured because Anna Karenina, I was like, okay, we'll do Chungking Express, and then I got my Gone Girl hat on because that's kind of little girl power fight
yeah.
against the system movie there. So that's the. But yeah, you said you've been getting into Wong Kar Wai more.
Yeah,
I love him.
and Fallen Angels is like such a weird movie, but I love it so much because of the way it's shot, and I'll watch him like speed up a shot of like a train going across like a cityscape, like just
Oh
give
yeah,
me a loop of that, or just smoke coming off of a cigarette past like a green lampshade or
yeah,
something. Like his lighting and how his everything he's filmed is so lived in.
yeah.
It's crazy to me.
I love Hong Kong of that era. That's
Yeah.
it's probably something I don't talk enough about on my channel. I think probably because I went through and watched a ton of it like before I started my channel at the beginning of the year. But yeah, I love him, Johnny To, Jackie Chan, John
Hmm.
Woo, like that whole. He's definitely different than those people. I haven't got as much into sort of that side of the Hong Kong filmmaking stuff,
Right.
but I need to.
Yeah, I
Have you
hadn't.
seen Random Connect? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, have you seen the Flowers of Shanghai? It's not it's a Taiwanese movie. I was just thinking about in terms of when I said I would do Anna Karenina longer. Flowers of Shanghai, I believe, is Zhang Yimou, and I'm probably saying that name wrong, so apologies out there. But 2 hours 5 minutes, and I think it has 40 shots.
Oh wow.
There's just 40 shots, and it's basically just dudes and women talking in brothels for like 2 hours 5 minutes. If you like Anna Karenina and like sort of, it's like, 'cause it's about prostitutes or flower girls in the houses, and it's like their relationships with like the, looking on wiki, the wealthy patrons who are semi-monogamous and often last for a long period of time. So
Huh.
it'd be
Interesting.
it's kind of a good meandering movie where it's literally they're just talking for like 2 hours for these really really long takes. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you like Fallen Angels and stuff, it's I believe it's Taiwanese. It's not Hong Kong, but
Yeah. I'll have to check it out.
same kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many like, like I'm sure so many blank spots for literature, movies, whatever. It's like, man, I haven't even touched the surface of that, and
Yeah.
I can't wait to. Like when you were bringing out, I keep hearing you talk about Fellini movies, and it's so weird because you're like, hey, I think we kind of do a little bit of the same thing. And I was like, realizing now, like, oh, we just started watching Fellini movies too. Like, of course.
Yeah.
But just like different ones. Like you were talking about watching Eight and a Half pretty soon. I don't know if you already have, but that's the one I
Not yet.
started with. I just put it on
Nice.
in the background. I was like, oh, I've seen this Italian movie, like this cover all over the place. So I put it on the background and I'm cleaning up the house before people come over. And I'm like, I need to stop this and just sit down and watch
Yeah.
because it's like amazing, amazing shots. Like I love old Italian
I
stuff
can't wait.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But then the
We're
ones
eight and a
I
half
haven't
is
seen
coming
was
soon.
Oh, okay,
Another
cool.
brutal one. Don't. Yeah. Another. Make sure you're in a good.
Yeah, my
Uh.
wife might. My wife can't do like real depressing stuff too often, so it might be a solo watch.
Yeah. Don't. Literally, probably that and Nights of Cabiria, probably two of the
Yeah,
top two most depressing movies, or like emotionally impactful I think I've
yeah.
probably ever seen.
I'm down, but it'll be
Yeah.
just me alone. But
Especially if you
she
feel
loved.
guilt. If
Oh
you or
yeah.
her feel guilt, don't watch La Strada. I would
Mm.
say like it's very, yeah. It's
One of his that my
awful.
wife is like, she's like, oh, this is like my top five movie for me now. Is Julia of the Spirits.
Yeah, that's it's coming up soon. I'm
And
excited.
like I loved it, but like I could see how she connected so hard with it. And it reminds me of your stuff because like the costumes in that is so insane and so surreal. Like the hats are just like make you question whether you're in a dream or just this is just like real life. And
Mhm.
like while we were watching it, my wife is like, because she also loves David Lynch. She's like, I know David Lynch was influenced by this, and she
Oh
looks
yeah,
it up and it's like he names the movie because some of the
yeah.
shots are like such Lynch characters or actions, so surreal.
I might be wrong on this, but I think I'm right. I think Lynch was actually, oddly enough, one of the last people to see Fellini before he died. I
Oh
think
wow,
in a strange, yeah, he loves Fellini. I haven't gotten to. I'm looking forward to getting into more of the surreal side of Fellini because there's in the '50s movies and his first movies, there's some of it, but there's not.
yeah,
Some of it's a bit more implicit. If your wife likes that one, I would say, based on the description, the movie, is it Variety Lights? I think,
okay,
would be an interesting. Um, no, I'm not. I'm not thinking of the Variety Lights is good. But I'm actually thinking, oh, The White Sheik. The White Sheik is the one.
okay,
The White Sheik is, especially with the kind of a Anna Karenina connection. But it's a woman who shows up or a woman and her husband. They show up in Rome to meet the Pope, and like they're newlyweds to meet the Pope and the guy's family.
yeah,
And she sees the hero of her romance photo novels. Like she's like a big reader,
uh-huh.
and like she's reading like these kind of trashy romance like photo novels starring the character, the White Sheik. And so she basically goes off to try and finds him and sort of leaves her husband has to like keep explaining away her like to his family like where she is and like, oh, she's just sick, not feeling well. But it's kind of about the sort of expectations of marriage and like what that means from like a religious and so
Hmm.
like socioeconomic standpoint, but in like 50s Italy.
Yeah,
So it's a good one. It's pretty funny, and It's a lighter one of his, but still kind of like very, very impactful.
Yeah. Oh man,
I
I
think it
can't
was
wait.
his first one that he solo directed, I believe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard there's like he had a writer's block before Eight and a Half, and then it's basically was like, I'm just gonna make a movie about like me right now, or so like a version of me. And then after that, his stuff like I think after that went color too, and his stuff just got more surreal. Before it was like more I
Yeah.
don't know what would be the term for his stuff before yeah, like the what was the French
More
New
like
Wave, the Italian counterpart? It's like
neorealism.
yes, yeah. Would
Yeah.
that be neorealism?
I think. I think so. I'm not as good at. I should be better at that stuff, but I'm. Yeah, I wish I
Yeah.
could. You know, another random connection with the movie that I watched this week. The Leopard was shot by I think the guy who became his cinematography, and I think he did or his cinematographer, and I believe he did. Did he do Julia to the Spirits? I think he did not do Julia to the Spirits, but he became a cinematographer. I think starting with Fellini Satyricon, and then Roma, Amarcord, Fellini Casanova.
Okay.
Also did The Leopard, so it's pretty beautiful movie. And
Oh,
if you like
cool.
historical epics, it's
Yeah.
just a good, nice little settle in and watch type of
Yeah.
thing.
Awesome.
Yeah. A lot of movie rights, can never go any conversation without giving and getting like 20 movie
I
recommendations.
know.
My
Yeah.
channel's
What's
bankrupting me because everyone keeps,
you
you
have
gotta
to
watch
buy
this.
this. And you're probably a
Yeah.
big physical media guy, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just hit, these are like all stuff I got in lately. This is
Dang.
just like one stack, but I think I just hit 2,000 movies. So,
Dude, you would love
yeah.
my friend. It's like it's funny because the other episode, the guy you were interviewing was like, yeah, my partner is actually the guy to talk to. Like the guy I do the podcast with, Mixed, he's the movie guy. Like he loves movies. Probably I
Happily I'll
think
have them on.
he's got a couple thousand, I think too. He's like big physical media guy, and so yeah, yeah, he'd be a good guy to talk to.
I'd be happy to. Yeah, that'd be great.
How do you
Um, Go ahead. Sorry.
like I think a lot of stuff that like really motivates me with what I'm into is like because I realize like I don't mean to be jumping your question. Like you asked
No,
the other
yeah.
guy um what kind of like what do you look for in movies? Like what makes you love a movie?
Yeah.
Um and I was like, man, that is such a good question because like I don't emotionally connect with movies as much as I do music and books.
Hmm.
Like I think when I was thinking about it, I was like I go to movies to like inform like style and aesthetic and just kind of visuals, I guess, more than but also like how they meet up with music because like all of the stuff I love is like I love um um Leone, Sergio Leone, and
Mm.
he did this movie called Duck You Sucker, and Ennio Morricone does this like crazy, like beautiful music through it, and
Oh yeah.
I love it when a movie has like a very idiosyncratic like music to it, and that
Yeah.
heightens things so much for me. And
That was the strength of the 2012 Anna Karenina, I thought. I really love the score.
yeah,
That was a great score, I thought.
yeah,
You're saying does Duck You Sucker have a great score?
yeah, it's such like a weird it's like this Mexican bandit teams up with this Irish dude is going through Mexico on a motorcycle filled with nitroglycerin because he's like on the run because he got outed as an IRA member in Ireland. So it's like
Oh,
an
cool.
anime premise somehow.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then they have to like they're actually like
I
trying
love
to
that.
rob this bank, but also they get like in a fight with these World War I Germans that were in Mexico at the same time.
Oh, cool.
It's bonkers, but like the score is like the guy's name is Juan, the Irish guy's name is Sean, and so the motif that keeps on coming through like the score is like Sean Sean Sean, like Ennio Morricone with like 70s like strings and like Sean Sean Sean.
That's awesome.
It's so
I
good.
love that. I love Morricone. Yeah, honestly, it's you. So do you watch? Because I will watch him. I probably will watch any movie, like there's a couple people. There's my buddy, so the housemate, my housemates that I live with, he does music for horror video games, and so he's like exceedingly musical,
Yeah.
and like that's kind of how. So we honestly a lot of the time will pick something like I made a video about like if you like a director, like the other day about like Domer Dave's, like if you like a director, then then if you like a movie, then like maybe you might like what the other director does, or like the type of thing that the director is good at, or the actor or whatever. But honestly, I've more and more I think of for me, I think um definitely like the whoever does the score. Like I kind of want to check out
Yeah.
other movies by the guy who did this the score for the Anna Karenina, because I really really enjoyed it. But even to your point about Morricone, I actually ended up watching. There's a movie called Luna, Bernardo Bertolucci, that I couldn't find the score for it anywhere. But because I love Morricone so much, I was like, I want to watch this. Obviously, beautiful score, but I think Morricone is up there with like Bernard Herrmann and John Williams and probably Johnny Greenwood, the the Radiohead fella.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as like I'll think I'll watch anything that if there's a score, like it'll just elevate. There's even a weird movie I watched from the night that was like this weird little Italian gangster movie that really wasn't good at all, but it did have a Morricone score that was like, okay, well at least like it wasn't a
Yeah.
waste of time because I got to hear that. So is
Yeah,
that what you
definitely.
like? Will you go music first on that stuff or?
Yeah, I'm and it's almost like I want to say like no, it's deeper than that for me like with movies, and but now like I am connecting a lot more emotionally with movies just in the last like 5 years, but it has traditionally always been like it's just like even anime like Akira and the music in Akira, I love it so freaking much. It's
Mm,
just like choral arrangements and like throat singing and like
that's
different
cool.
things with like drums and percussion, like early digital music. And
That's
then
awesome.
Metropolis, like the anime, like
Fritz
it's like
Lang.
from two. No, this is like the anime from. I love the Fritz Lang Metropolis, but
That's another blind spot. I haven't seen it.
this is the anime from
Okay.
2000, and it's by the character designs is the same guy. I'm blanking on his name, but he does Astro Boy. So they're
Okay.
like the like kind of like squished down like 40s style
Oh,
characters,
that's
but
cool.
it's an adaptation of that Fritz Lang's Metropolis. But there's a needle drop in that movie that will haunt me forever. It's just a at the end when everything's coming apart, randomly a Ray Charles song starts playing and
Oh
like
wow.
broke my brain a little bit when I was a kid and I first saw it. So I just love, interesting musical choices in movies. Like it ties it all together for me.
Yeah, I'll need to watch that. It's funny on the I think on the second episode, my buddy Tyler is like big into anime, and he was giving me some recommendations. That's another thing. It's a blind spot. You brought up kind of two of them. I haven't seen the only Sergio Leone movies I've seen are Once Upon a Time in the West and
Hmm.
Once Upon a Time in America. Somehow I just have never seen the Dollars trilogy,
Oh
which is
well,
just
yeah.
like probably one of the few people. And I don't think I've ever sat down and watched any anime. I watched Pokemon and Dragon Ball Z when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That's the closest thing.
That's
And
wild.
then yeah,
That's like you're how old are you? You're 30,
34.
34. I'm 40.
Yeah.
So like that's just wild to make it to that stage in your life without having to be exposed to more anime for like
Yeah. But
millennials
my
like
friends have
us.
seen it. I could
Yeah.
like rattle off some because like my buddy my housemates with like he used to watch just from listening to him like it's like I know the name's always Iran High School Host Club, and like I know that's like whatever studio did that did like are they the ones that did Death Note as well?
Oh, okay.
Um
Yeah, and
like
I have such a blank spot with that too because like mine's mostly like the movies and like some shows and like limited series, And it's just like
yeah,
whatever like I have such a
Studio
weird
Bones.
what is it?
Studio Bones.
Oh, okay.
And they did some of the Full Metal Alchemist, and sorry you were saying, but you have you main with the movies like you like Memories. I'm trying to think of the ones
Yeah, Memories
Memories.
is awesome.
I have Memories, I just haven't watched it.
Oh man, it's so good. Um and have you seen Akira?
No,
Oh
yeah,
man,
none of
it's
it.
so amazing. The animation itself is just like it's before cell shading. So it's all
Does
like,
Miyazaki count?
oh yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I've seen. Okay, then I've seen Ponyo and I've
I
seen
love
Princess
Ponyo.
Mononoke.
I love
Yeah, they're
Ponyo so
great.
much.
Well, I
And
think
Mononoke, yeah.
if you listen to that second episode with the guy Takeshi Kitano speaking, that's the other composer, but he uses Joe Hisaishi for all of
Okay.
his
Yeah.
90s movies.
Right.
And it's the movies would not be the same without his score. As much as I
Mm.
love Takeshi Kitano, like the Hisaishi themes, it's like they're so beautiful that they match with like the kind of so depressing, like violent content. Like the juxtaposition of it so well is just like it's
Yeah.
so key to it that it's kind of missing in his later movies in a different way. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Akira's the one that would be your,
If you're gonna watch
maybe that would
one,
be a
yeah, that's
recurring
gotta be
question.
it. Like, I
Gotta be
mean, it's
Akira.
so
Okay.
like the animation is just, it's like, it's like that, like we're losing recipes thing. Like we can't make Akira now. We literally couldn't probably. Like,
It's interesting you say cyberpunk is. Well, I'm looking on the Wikipedia. It says pivotal film in the cyberpunk genre.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I just watched this movie Crazy. If you're like this, maybe the movie Crazy Thunder Road. I'll try and put out a video on it. But
oh
me and my
yeah.
buddy just watched a. It's like it's one of the founding guys of the Japanese cyberpunk movement.
Oh right on.
Yeah, it's a really super cool movie.
Is it like cyberpunk? So like for Akira, it's like Neo Tokyo. Like it's Tokyo in the future. World War III already happened, and they're just this biker gang and is caught up in this like government's like project. So and what's crazy about Akira is like um the manga is like 7 volumes and you put them together like this thick. Like
Mm,
Otomo, the guy who did that, just is like he's done stuff since, but never something that big. Like that's his life work, and like that's
mm.
how the like I'm sure you know like the Japanese stuff that you've watched is like these people are just like really like committed to like putting their life's work out there, and
Yeah,
once they get it, they do like they make some amazing stuff, and like it's just I forget how many pages, like 2,000 pages of manga, and then like a feature film. It's just insane. I don't know how you
yeah.
do that.
It's the well, with all these old directors, like I say, I'm like it's first Clarence Brown movie. He probably directed like 30, 40 movies, right? Like
Yeah,
it's kind of interesting. Like Joe Wright is pretty prolific. I feel like for a modern director, he's probably directed 8 or 9 movies in like a
right.
20-year period or something. And that's like a pretty good pace.
Yeah,
But then you look at John Ford, and I think he did like 120 movies over like 40 years or something,
it's
which is
crazy.
just so
Yeah.
Crazy Thunder Road was made by, I'm going to say this probably wrong, but Gakuryur Ishii, and he later did Burst City, and Burst City
Oh, I
is,
recognize the name of that. Yeah.
yeah, the film is cited as a precursor to the underground Japanese cyberpunk movement that emerged later in the decade. So that probably was like an influence on Akira, I would think Burst City is. And then Crazy Thunder Road is his student film that he did, his
It
first
looks
movie.
so
So
freaking good.
yeah, Crazy
Oh
Thunder
my
Road.
God.
It's a fun one. It's more. It was described as like I think Japan's Mad Max. So it's
Yes.
not like strictly cyberpunk, but
And I
it's
love Mad Max too.
yeah, yeah. So that's another blind spot. I've seen Fury Road and Furiosa,
Hmm.
but not Mad Max. So I
I
need to
mean,
see some anime. Probably the biggest one, the craziest one is just the only Disney movie I've ever seen is Lion King. I've never seen
that's
any.
the only one.
That's the
Wow.
only one.
Yeah, I love that though because like we had a friend who had never seen Star Wars and I didn't get to see Star Wars with him. I found out later, oh, you saw it? Crap. Like I wanted him to
That would
like
have been a good
see like
experience.
the I am your father.
Yeah,
And so like finding people who like friends who like yeah, I haven't seen this, but also I haven't seen Crazy Thunder Road. So it's like I love being like exposed to stuff like that. And let's see,
yeah.
what is the one Disney movie if that is like such an interesting question. Um,
I've seen
because
a
I
lot of
love
Pixar. Yeah.
yeah, I love animation. I love 2D animation and like I will always point out that I think it was Lilo and Stitch came out like a year before Shrek, and then Shrek happened, and all the studios were like, "Well, we're obviously all doing Shrek now, right? Forget 2D
Yeah.
animation." And it's like Lilo and Stitch is such a cool like design and like the watercolor backgrounds and stuff, like so amazing. But I mean, kids movies, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'd like to. I don't. At this point, I almost don't want to see any Disney movies just because it's kind of funny. The older I get, not
Yeah.
having seen any of them, but I probably will see some of them. I don't think I've seen. Yeah, I think just The Lion King when I was, and I don't remember it
Yeah,
at all.
I mean, Disney has their eras and stuff, but like, I just love animation so much. I think it's like,
Mm.
it's something that'll never, like, you can see animation from like the early Disney movies and it holds up, like, whereas CGI from Toy Story, like when Toy Story came out, we were all just like, wow, awesome. And now we watch it now, and it's like, man, that's creepy looking.
It's pretty early. Yeah,
Yeah. And,
I watched a lot of Looney Tunes was my thing.
oh, yeah,
My
yeah.
yeah, my mom, my grandma on my mom's side was like a early feminist, and she didn't like the way Disney movies. She didn't um like the portrayals of how they portrayed women
Hmm.
in like as like princess and everything. So she just didn't want, I guess, my mom and then me to watch any of them.
Yeah.
And but I think also my mom's an oboist, so like I think she also just liked the music, merry melodies of
Oh,
Looney
yeah.
Tunes. Like, not
Hmm.
that there's bad music in the Disney movies or whatever, but like it was just kind of like just listening to a bunch of classical music while cartoons played. So she'd be in the house, and I'd just be watching Looney Tunes, and I
Uh-huh.
think that's the reason, as much as the feminism
Yeah.
angle of it. But
And
I'll probably watch them at some point. I do also love animation. I just I was almost watching these. I think it's Carol Zeilman. Who's the? I can't. Um, what's the guy's? Carol Zeilman. He was like, I think he was influencing like Terry Gilliam,
oh, yeah.
and he did like a lot of like mixture of live action with animation. And I think there's a Criterion collection that has a bunch of his like cartoons or works or whatever that
Okay.
I've been.
Was he
Yeah,
more like a little more underground or like indie?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, he like if you've seen like the Monty Python Terry Gilliam, like the way he
Yeah.
did his
Okay. Yeah.
animation style. I think it's like that,
Hmm.
like so cutouts and stuff. Um and then the Jans Fonkmeyer, who I did a video on, who did Faust and Alice and some stop motion stuff.
Oh, yeah.
I think he was influential on him too. So yeah, I need to get into that. Akira, and maybe
Maybe a Disney. I don't know.
yeah.
Maybe.
We'll see. I feel like I should have one more. I'm sure I'll like them.
You don't have to watch any Disney. There's so much more. Like, there's probably like I'm just blanking on it, but like I'm sure after we stop recording, we're like that animated movie. Like that's the one to watch.
You know what I liked a couple years ago? I watched randomly. I think it was Forbidden Planet. I think it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
That's a good one.
Hmm.
That it's kind of a weird one. I think I have a
Yeah.
T-shirt with it. Is it Forbidden Planet? Forbidden Planet's a movie, but is it Forbidden Voyage? Maybe I'm thinking of.
I know which one you're talking about. The French
Yeah,
animation. Yeah.
yeah. It's like from the '70s or something.
Hmm.
But well, cool. Well, let's You want to do Fits?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now's the time on Fits. Okay, so let me pull up Fits here. So okay, so this is a new segment we're doing on the show. You still good on time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we'll do Fits, and let me share my screen. How do I do this? Preview timeline. Okay, so we got our Fits going. All right, we'll go with 2012 first. So
Okay.
this is a new segment on the show we're going to do called Fits, where we just go through some fits. We talk about how we like it. So we'll start off with Anna Karenina 2012. I like this blue fit, that she's got here.
Hmm.
I also took. I don't think this is an actual dress. I think this is sort of just like the precursor, right? This is.
Yeah.
But I like that one. And then when she gets dressed, this is sort of an early one that I thought was pretty cool. This purple one. What do you think
Yeah.
about this one?
I like it.
We'll give this. Go ahead,
I
sorry.
like give it what? What were you gonna say?
Oh, I was gonna say I'll give it a B. We're gonna get
Okay, I'll give it a B plus.
B
Yeah,
plus.
I
All right.
like it. I like the color. I like she looks very Anna Karenina to me. I don't know why I like have this image of Anna Karenina in my head.
Yeah, I thought the costumes in this movie were really good. Yeah, I like this one. Both of these get A's for me. I
Yeah.
think the
The
veil, really
yeah,
good. The furs.
she had some veils in this movie that were bonkers.
Do they describe a lot of the like the
The clothes.
the clothes? Like, is it in terms of the dress in the book?
I don't recall a lot of that. No, not a lot of it. I don't think
Hmm.
it's very like common in Russian. I mean, that's maybe not true. Maybe I'm just not like tuned into it. Maybe
Mm.
he is describing it. I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't. But like that's another thing. It's like you said, you're kind of like you're finding out what you like in these outfits and stuff and realizing there's a whole community of people like that are seeing your TikToks like, oh yeah, awesome. Keep posting this stuff. So I think it's like just a blind spot for me almost, I'll see something will definitely grab my eye. And for me, it was like the veils in the 2012 one. But yeah, the stuff they would have to like keep warm and riding through a sleigh in Russia.
Hello. So there was a slight issue, and we're back now.
I genuinely thought that I screwed everything up.
No, 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 not at all. So Gabe was just mentioning about the, when I was talking about software earlier, some of my job, software stuff has been to like, guide people or walk people through. And so he brought up Kafkaesque, but gosh, I don't know how deep. So there's two story, like there's kind of two main things. Like at some point I'm gonna write a book on it or something, or like do a video. Who knows? But like, there was one. I'm a data hoarder, and like I still have like a bunch of old videos and like trainings I used to do for companies, and like so I used to. I'm trying to think of how much I can sort of name names on this thing. Let's just say I integrated with a very large, like one of my jobs was like helping people implement these databases for talking to customers. And like at these, like, every big company uses this. Like if you want to keep track of like I don't know, like the deals that you have and like the customer relations and like all this, like all the customer data, like I was, one of those people. Kafka was underselling how just how crazy those systems are. Like the stories I could tell about seeing some of these deployments, like you, the listener, would not believe how fucked up these systems are from like, I'm talking like Fortune 500 companies of like, just as an example, let's say there's a record for Gabe in, Gabe Reader in a system. There might be, if you like have a relationship with the company where like you sign up for a service, let's say widget company, or whatever, widget company might in their system have 63, 65 different records for Gabe Reader with different information on each record. And somehow like, they're trying to like merge all the information across these different records, or they can't for some weird reason, or whatever. So like even if you like, part of the reason like everything's so fucked up, dealing with like customer service and everything else in this country globally, is these systems are implemented and they have like no budget for them, and like they don't have any time for them, and they're like trying to integrate like old 30-year legacy systems, and it's just the most nightmarish thing of information of like just even like, and it's even compounding because like the average tenure at a company for someone who's in charge of these like systems is like only a couple years, but you might not be able to finish even implementing them in like a couple years, and you're trying to deal with like, there's a great article if you just Google the phrase Windows 3.1 is alive and it just killed a French airport. Like that was the most believable article I've ever. This was a couple years ago, maybe 10 years ago at this point, but it was like Windows 3.1, I think, is from the early 90s, maybe even before that. And like this French airport was still running it because like they just had never upgraded their systems off of like Windows 3.1. And you would see that like when I was doing these things, like you would see people who were still on email systems from the 80s, and so that's like from a broad sense, like I'd never like the frustrations I've had at that job where like you'd be trying to help people implement these crazy systems where like they have hundreds of records for any individual person, and you combine that with the fact that they have millions and millions of customers, and it's just like it's actually kind of like it makes me like physically ill from like an information like just like a thinking about it. Like my buddy I have a friend who has like a specific fear of like too much of one thing in anything, like, which is honestly I kind of like now I'm kind of hard. Like he's like, if you see like 10 tennis balls, it's like, okay. But if you saw like a million tennis balls in a room, just seeing that would be kind of horrific on some level. And so
Yeah.
he doesn't like thinking, but like, so you think like any of these systems have like, billions of records that just
Hmm.
don't make any sense and are like, like Kafkaesque didn't even begin to, because then it's like you have like workflow rules and like these other things on top of it, like, oh, if the customer does this, then it happens to this and this and this and this. And so, and then they just like, a lot of the times they'll just like, okay, we'll just clear it all out, and then they just sort of reset after every couple years, and like,
Hmm.
or they don't, and then it's like for legal reasons or whatever else. So I never have, I have a lot of patience, because like that was my job for many, many years of like
Right.
just trying to help do that. So any technical thing, but even just at a fundamental, this is how crazy it's gonna be a therapy session now. I will say the point, I brought it up because I forgot to go back to this, but when I was looking through my old videos and old stuff I have on my computer of training sessions I was doing a training session with a company that, what can I say? They operated in all over the world, but they had like specific, relationships and like they had specific like businesses in like the Southeast United States and the Gulf Coast. And so I
Yeah.
was doing a training for probably 50 people whose job it was to go up and down the Gulf Coast, Houston, New Orleans, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Panhandle, like selling these different things. And so I was doing a training for them, and like the object was to implement this customer type of service, like this customer system to like say, hey, you could keep track of your, your contacts in here, you could like your information, this, that, the other. And like it was to probably 50 to 60 like 60-year-old guys who had been in this business for like 30, 40 years. And I did this whole training for 45 minutes of like, here's how you use the system, here's how you use our system, here's how you use this. And this guy piped up and he just says, he just says in like the thickest like New Orleans accent, just I can't even do it, like whatever accent. He's like, I just want to thank y'all. He's like, this is blah blah blah. I just thank y'all for being here, but he's like, I just want you to know I'm probably not going to use any of this because my business is handshakes and smiles. And he went to this thing. And he's saying like, not only did he not use the system of like that we were trying to implement, but he didn't even use computers. Like that was like the level. So it's just like, it was literally, it was like I had like a real mental like,
Yeah.
just like, it was really freaking me out honestly the other day when I was just like going through these old things. It was like that 40 minutes was like, if you calculate it, 40 minutes times 60 people. Of like, I'm trying
And
to
those
do
guys make a lot of money. Those guys,
Yeah,
like, they're
yeah.
getting paid a ton.
Yeah, they were making a lot of money, and like they were good at what they do. They were like selling these services in like this very sort of big industry. But it was all just like it's not that like they're not even using. I just couldn't like they're not using the system, and they're not even using like browsers, and they're not even using email, and they're not even using computers.
Dude,
So it's
if
like,
you like, I'm 5 years away from that, if I'm being honest. Like, that's what's
yeah,
like, you're in this like Kafka analogy. You are a tech Poseidon, like doing
yeah,
crunching numbers, and I'm like a crab getting mad because I can't hold a pen because like
yeah.
I am like almost there. I'm almost
I
like
get it.
radicalized.
Yeah.
Um,
It
yeah,
honestly, radicalize is the right word. It had a radicalizing effect on me because it's like, this is just such a massive like waste of like, imagine if we just took all those 60 people and just went and helped make meals at a local food shelter.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where this falls in the political spectrum, probably leftist, but my dream is like, I would want a government agency that just goes around to different companies and just says, is this meeting or is this even company
Yeah.
a valuable use of anything? And if not, you go volunteer. Like you go, you go talk to some old people at a nursing home, you listen to them, you go make meals for the needy. Like,
Yeah.
I would have
Production
a
wouldn't
Gestapo.
take a hit or anything. Like, it just
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
oh, we can take a week off and do all this stuff, and
Society would
everything
be
is the same.
immeasurably improved if I just wasn't having to do a training for a software program that was for a bunch of people who don't even use computers. Like,
Yeah.
and they didn't have to sit there either.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just went on like a tirade because like I I use my phone to like make my videos and stuff. I'm very tech illiterate, so like I just have like a ton of videos that are captured in slow motion, so they're really massive, and I don't want to delete them off my phone. I can't be bothered to get like an external hard drive, all this crap, just all this stupid stuff. It's
Yeah.
stupid. I'm the guy from New Orleans. Um, and so like I'm trying to play Minecraft with my kids, and Microsoft's like, okay, cool, sign in. And I was like, all right, yeah, you remember my password. It doesn't. I don't know why. It did before. It doesn't now. And they're like, oh, it's fine. Use your authenticator. I'm like, okay, good. I have that on my phone. Authenticator's like, oh, you have to update to the latest iOS. And I'm like, okay. And I look at that and I'm like, I'm not even maxed out my storage. I have like 5 gigs. And they're like, you need 11 gigs to do this update. And it's like, in what world am I going to have 11 spare, like opened up 11 gigs to do this update? And so I was like, I'm not doing this update. I'm just going to use this phone until it craps out. Don't
That's just
like,
before
go
the
from
law,
there.
right?
What's
Isn't
that?
isn't that the Kafka story before the law, the doors? Like that's literally
Yeah.
just like, because
Yeah.
it's the authenticator. It's made just for you, and now we're closing it, right? It's the 2 guards.
Yeah.
That's so.
It's wild. So there's like, it's just funny that I'm your Waluigi.
No,
I feel the
get it.
same pain as you, but I'm on the other side of it. I'm the one giving the pain sometimes, I'm sure. Like somebody I'm talking to trying to walk me through
Yeah.
something.
It's alienating because it really doesn't need to be like this at all. That's the biggest, like, even like, I remember there's the whole, the classic thing of like, I think John Wayne said this, Churchill said this or whatever, but it's like, that whole stupid thing about like, if you're not a liberal or a leftist when you're 20, you have no heart, but if you're not a conservative when you're 30, you have no brain.
Uh-huh.
And it's like working 10 years in private industry or 11 years or however, God, probably 11 years now has only radicalized me further. It's like, it's just a complete waste of resources. Like the whole,
Yeah.
like, it's just like, it's more Kafkaesque than Kafka could even dream. The scale of it, the scale of like, gosh, there are, I can't name the system, but there's a company, like I know, like, so like, because I love hating on this stuff. Like there is one system for like doing like customer customer like information and all this stuff where like their target deployment at companies is like 50% of the system. So it's like, imagine like you're just listeners, imagine that you're selling pizza and you say that we're only going to keep track of 50% of people's orders. And it's like, how would that be useful? Like that our target goal, if you're selling software, is like that we want customers to be able to keep track of 50% of their orders. Like fundamentally from like an information theory standpoint, it's like it'd be like having 50% of Anna Karenina. It's like, okay, we're going to sell, but like imagine a printing process, right? Where it's like, well, we only need 50% of the pages. It's like, well, how is this going to make any sense at all? Like you can't even use it to analyze anything. It's not.
But it's technically Anna Karenina. We can call it Anna Karenina because there's 50% of Anna Karenina in there.
Yeah. Even like it's even like sampling, right? It's like I'm a big like stats nerd and everything too. And it's like, you can like get a lot from like sampling small amounts of, data, like it's how polls and everything else work or whatever. But like it doesn't even work with that because the people who are going to use the system are going to be more technologically, they're going to be a different like subset of people than the people who aren't going to use it. So like, again, like I've literally seen this happen. You would not believe the size companies of like where it's like they make like business like decisions and fundamental like changes to their business based on like this data they see in these systems that only the people who are like under 35 are using, and half their bit, and like then it just goes like a disaster because like the other 70% of their people are like 35 and older users who just are not using the technology. And that's just even on an age thing. But like, yeah, it's just wild. It's like it's just fundamentally pointless and useless in a way that like is just I don't know, demeaning and alien.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
Yeah.
Kafka.
The Poseidon thing gets me because that's why I was thinking like, well, like honestly, part of the reason I started like doing this channel and more creative stuff is I was like, one day after I, make a little bit of money in like this awful industry, then I'll start, maybe I'll do a creative stuff. And like, then I just felt the seagull circling my head and, just
Yeah,
being
if
dazed.
not now, when it's like, and
Yeah.
one text that really influenced me to start making stuff and putting it out there is Ralph Waldo Emerson, Self-Reliance, that essay.
Mm, I haven't read that.
There's lines in that that just like hit me so hard. It's like, speak now what you believe today in hard words. And if you think something different tomorrow, speak that in hard words too.
Mm,
And it's like, so you'll be misunderstood. Well, everybody who's worth anything through history has been misunderstood, so it's fine. Just like kind of like musings like that on like how to trust yourself and how to trust your own thought, and like you're doing with like the fashion stuff, just kind of like, this is what I like, even though I don't have like the eye for fashion. I haven't been trained in anything. And
yeah.
it goes back to like, it's so easy to be wrong, but
Yeah.
why not, like, we're two straight white dudes talking about like our opinions and stuff. Like, nobody
Yeah.
needs that, nobody asked for that, but honestly, this is how I understand more about myself. So this is for me. Like, if I bounce off of a movie or a book, like, I understand more about myself from that almost more than if I love something.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was on the last episode with Synecdoche, New York and all that jazz, and I watched it with City Lights. I don't know if you
Mhm.
listened to that one, but
Yeah.
I really bad kind of funny Hinge experience, and
Mhm.
no, but it's I definitely want to read the Self-Reliance, because like I started actually, as part of a way to get through that, I started like I had been doing journaling, but I journaled more, and like just I was kind of like, I had a thing in there where I was in my journal I was just trying to speak as honestly as possible. So that seems,
Yeah.
I definitely want to read that essay now, because
Yeah,
it's interesting. Like, it kind of drove me to like, maybe I'm just being like, am I just being the guy from the movie of just like being this kind of, I don't know, just looking for love in the wrong places, I guess, on some level.
right.
It's a simplistic reading of that, but
Yeah, and that's kind of like we were talking about with Anna Karenina, is like looking for external like fixes to internal problems.
yeah.
Anna Karenina and Levin are doing that. And they Anna Karenina is given like reprieve from her like, empty, loveless marriage, and it's worth throwing away your life for that happiness. In the end, maybe not, but and then Levin gets his happiness, but it's not enough to fix what's inside,
Mm,
and I think that's a lot of Russian literature is like that. It's just like, what is really fueling us? What is what makes life meaningful?
yeah, absolutely. The okay, so let's go back to the fits now. Let's see if
Oh,
I can pull
yes.
up these. Hopefully this doesn't. I kind of wonder, maybe it's something that, hope it's not like this screen sharing that caused the issue. It's interesting when you say like sort of the trap stuff, because I noticed that actually in the way I wanted to talk about that with the way the fashion is. So we ended up on like these sort of um, fur outfits. I did notice
Hmm.
one thing that was like kind of bothering me as a, I don't want to say bothering me, but like I wish almost we had more shots like this, where we could see more of the costumes. But also I kind of get like, it did make it a bit more claustrophobic, that they kind of shot her a lot where you didn't see as much of sort of the expression of it and everything. Like,
Yeah.
you sometimes had, um, shots like these, and
Oh, that was
um,
such a cool shot.
yeah, this is a great one. I give
When
this one
Levin
an
was
8.
like, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. When Levin was like, I'm of the earth and she's of the heavens.
Mm.
And he's just like standing on the bare floor of the theater and looks up, and it's just like this surreal vision of, she's obviously just sitting in their foyer or something, but he sees the clouds around her and everything. I
Yeah.
love that.
This is a big A for sure. I love this dress. Yeah, the furs. Then this one again. I love the entrance here. They did so
Yeah.
much with that set. I
I
thought
love
was,
the officers' garb and stuff too. Is so cool.
yeah. I didn't get as many screenshots as the dudes' clothes, except for the one Basil Rathbone one. Yeah, this dress. I did notice.
I
It's interesting. Go ahead. Sorry.
I love that dress.
Yeah. As I was clipping all this, and we'll get to it when we get to the 35 one, I noticed in the 35 one, she's almost in black for like the entire movie, which
Oh,
I thought
interesting.
was curious. I didn't notice it at the time, but when I was going back and, because she's in, this is such a great sequence with the spotlight. The jewelry, loved it. This, again, the robe. This lady I thought was, I just liked all the casually having this in there was great. With
Casual hat, like hanging off the side of the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. More black in here. I love she wore this hat a couple times in this fur.
Yeah. But the hats, all of the headpieces were so cool in this.
Yeah. This dress, I think, with the fur was good. And this lady on the left here. All these are pretty much A's or B's for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, this one's
it won that year
looking.
for the hair too.
I was surprised at how little money this made. I think it was a budget $40 million. It made like $70 million. Because
oh yeah.
I feel like I've been almost overly talking about my issues with it. But I don't actually I really enjoyed it as a movie, and I would love to see 10 more movies like this. And so I was surprised with the level of craft and stuff that it didn't make more, because I figured it just would be more popular. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of wonder why. This one, I love this scene.
Yeah. She's like, "Who can see us?" And she looks up and
yeah. Yeah, just the casual.
That's so
casual,
cool.
Great. I mean, I wonder how long this stuff took to dress people in and everything. And then again, I guess she's in black as well. And then I guess that might be dark blue then. They did a good job of making Jude Law, I think, a little bit more unattractive, I gotta say. Cause he's a pretty good looking guy.
He's a good looking guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, his just his demeanor
His demeanor
sells
for sure.
that.
One thing I thought, did he, maybe I missed this, but on rewatch, did he crack the knuckles quite a bit in Jude Law? Did he do it up to, because I swear, one thing I wrote a note that when she finally flips out on him for cracking his knuckles, I was like, oh, I kind of wish they had portrayed that a little more, because it's very noticeable in the 35 one, but I guess I just didn't.
Right.
I didn't know if I noticed as much in 2012.
I mean, it's my not my first time watching the 2012, but I did pick up on it that he was doing it before.
Yeah, Basil Rathbone's just getting in, he's making a big show of it the whole time.
He's acting, man.
Yeah.
I love that Kitty was more dressed you could. There's a clear distinction that I think is a little clearer than in the 35 movie, that she is a girl. She's a little girl.
Yeah.
And Anna's a 30-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Whereas I think in the 35, she's not as prominent in the 35 version, but it's almost like she's just one of the women. Where in this, she's just barely of age.
Now, is since you say that, is Vronsky, is he supposed to be is he more because the 35, there was to me, there was almost no chemistry between Garbo and the 35 Vronsky. I can't remember the fellow's name.
I didn't see any between them.
This one, I was yes, but I don't know. I guess maybe I don't like Aaron Taylor Johnson that much as an actor. I think, I don't know. During the sex scene, I thought there was it was very well shot and very well done, and you could kind of tell. But I think I just kind of struggled with his characterization, that he was kind of empty behind it. So it was just it was harder for me to believe that Anna was so into him, because it was just well, he's just. But then once I was well, maybe it's just the idea of him,
Yeah,
so,
and it kind of plays on that in the book too, because she's she's always questioning, she's always second guessing herself too, and towards the end of the movie, when she's kind of going crazy with jealousy and she's starting to take morphine to sleep, and she's trying to cope with her social situation, she's questioning him and who is this guy, and it is a little more clear in the book that we don't really know, she doesn't really know who he is, and it's such a good snapshot of a relationship too, because we've all had those fights where it's who is this person? Is this can I even trust this person? And
is he pretty fleshed out in the book? What is his primary?
He is. He's he's really in love with her. He's gonna basically lose his position in the army. It's basically on hold. and he's going to run away with her, and he's trying to, this isn't shown in the movie only a little bit because his mom's trying to set him up with Cara Delevingne,
Delvine, yeah.
Delevingne.
Hmm.
And his mom is constantly through the book trying to get him to stop messing around with this married woman and like, you know, go on a campaign or get married to an heiress, you know. And
Yeah.
she's gonna withhold his part of the fortune from him if he stays with her, and he's still like, it's like a obsession thing, but also like an honor thing, and he truly wants to do the right thing, even though he's, you know, destroying her life.
There was a bit more of that in the 35 one, I thought. They didn't really go as much into the regiment stuff, I thought,
Yeah,
in the 2012. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I thought Kitty did a great job in this one. And I do think it's richer for her inclusion. I think I'm leaning, especially after this conversation, to go more towards I think I brought up Giant or The Leopard or some of these 3-hour epics I would like to see.
yeah,
This was one of my favorite. I love this.
that's very cool.
Kind of lost it. Yeah, another yellow dress, great. This one, yeah, really like this kitty one. Big furs, good for petting dogs. Yeah, again, this is, I think this is her last outfit, right? I want to say, or not her last outfit. It's the one she goes, again, black. I really quite like this one.
She's going to her son's birthday, sneaking into. It's so heartbreaking. Like having kids, it's just like, and that's part of you see it in the movie, but it's a big part in the book. Tolstoy pulls no punches with people's internal monologues. So Anna is thinking about how much she loves Sergei, her son, and also thinking about how much she resents him for being the thing that is keeping her really locked into this previous life. It's such a tricky thing to navigate, like, you know, when you're having resentments over things that are holding you in place in your life, but you also love those things.
So, okay, so that's a great, I probably am going to bring this movie up a lot because it's one of my top 10 movies. And I made a couple of videos on my channel. You might have seen, have you seen the movie Leave Her to Heaven with Gene Tierney?
No.
Okay, so please don't look up anything about it. But
Okay.
I was going to get into Dreamcasting later. Gene Tierney is going to be my Dreamcasted Anna Karenina. But
Okay.
if you could, I wouldn't look up I'll give you the tagline for it. But if that's sort of a theme of it, sort of like the resentment in the book, I guess, of like that she also feels for like the kid, and like how it, like sort of what it represents. So Leave Her to Heaven is 1945 with Gene Tierney, and it follows a socialite who marries a prominent novelist, which spurs a violent, obsessive, and dangerous jealousy in her. And I would be, especially as a lover of this book, it's probably like in tonally, it's probably, now I don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, that might be another good episode to do, actually. We can maybe do like Leave Her to Heaven or something, because I would be fascinated to get your thoughts on it. If you like this one.
Definitely.
Because one thing, this was one of my favorite shots of the movie, so I can probably, let me see if I don't know if I'll be able to share it on screen, but there's a scene in Leave Her to Heaven where it's sort of like representing, I talked about it on one of my videos, but it's like she's wearing like this blue and white kind of dress or like robe or something in the house, and her wallpaper in her house, it's at a point in the story where she's kind of like feeling that she's like very like honestly Anna Karenina, where she would feel like very isolated because it's about like gender roles in 1940s America, and she becomes like indistinguishable from the wallpaper, basically, like in the dress.
You made a video about that, right?
Yeah. So I
saw that.
That's the movie, and so this was one of my favorite shots of the whole movie, just like with the dudes, because there's too much shallow focus, I think, in movies now, but like her being surrounded after she's like, you know, she has the thing about you know, it's like this is a man's world or whatever. I know that's a James Brown song, but she says like it's man, you know, laws are written by men to protect men. Like men, I think she says husbands and fathers, I think.
Right. Yeah.
And so her having this thing while she's surrounded by this really brutal mural of all these dudes, these like very hyper masculine dudes, just sort of like hammering, you know, right behind her. I just love this set design so much.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. It's like you don't know where the reality and the surrealism begin and end because you'll
Yeah.
get glimpses of like, oh, this is like a part of the stage because you can see past the set and it's more stage, or
Yeah.
like lattices, like bare lattices and stuff that wouldn't be in a wealthy person's Moscow house. This is like part of the old theater.
Yeah.
It's just like so weird. I love it.
Yeah. It was so good. This scene I loved. There's yeah, the where she goes out to the ballroom. Actually,
Yeah.
this shot right here, I'm going to do a video on this probably later today.
Oh
But I think
yeah.
this is a reference to Singing in the Rain. I think when
Oh,
Sid Charisse
interesting.
comes out, there's like a scene where everybody stops and is still in Singing in the Rain, and we swoop in on Sid Charisse, and there's like, ooh, I can't. Um, we swoop on Sid Charisse, and like she's like has this iridescent kind of lighting on her necklace. And in
Hmm.
this movie, I noticed that it's the same scene except we pull back out and everyone's still, and like sort of the spotlight's on her. So
Yeah.
I'm curious if that's. I think that's a reference, and
Interesting.
yeah, really loved it. The spotlight. To your point about the surrealness, this is one thing I thought the movie did so strongly that I really loved. That I don't think we see enough in movies is just, this scene. I don't know how it probably doesn't describe everybody as going still in the books, right? But like, you
Right.
know,
No,
I
but
just
that,
so beautiful.
yeah, that
Yeah,
sense that like all eyes are on me and like everything's like everyone's looking at me and that's a gross
yeah,
feeling.
yeah, yeah. And she has the same one in the night. I really like this lady, the sister. I especially like the
Yeah.
is that monologue or not the monologue, but the conversation in the book about no one. She I love the line she says about no one gave me the option to sort of leave my husband or whatever, or no one told me it was possible when she's sort of like supporting.
Yeah. I can't remember if that's in the book necessarily, but like it is an interesting dynamic. Like just that like is it's just also complicated. There's like Tolstoy doesn't give like this is right and this is wrong. Like these are just
Mhm.
people's situations and they either make the best of them or they like blow apart their lives or and there's happiness there, but there's also great sorrow because
Yeah,
the guy's gonna keep on cheating on her.
yeah. This
Ugh.
lady's great. She's in
Yeah, I love her.
No Country for Old Men. I think it's Kelly MacDonald. I want to say her name
Train
is.
spotting, I think,
Is she in
right?
Train Spotting? I haven't seen
Yeah,
that. It's another blind spot. Yeah,
yeah.
Kelly MacDonald is great. Well, love this hat. That again, great hats in here. And
It'd be interesting to rewatch like when Anna Karenina is in light colors and when she's in dark colors because she's in dark a lot.
yeah, well, especially I'll pull up the 35 one after this, but she's in. It feels like she's in dark colors almost the entire movie when I was
Oh,
looking
that
at
was
it.
such a cool scene.
Yeah, the blue. I love the wallpaper on here. Um, yeah, and then I think this at the end, like, I don't like, again, I probably should know. I think this is just like the structure of the dress, right? But just to
Yeah,
kind of present her in just like as she's almost getting
half
laid
made.
bare. Yeah,
Yeah.
and her husband. It's like this is when things are falling apart with her husband with Vronsky. Really good. And then her death dress where she goes and spoiler, but it's interesting that they do the dark red. This is the dress that she throws herself under the train in.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was again. I'll be curious. Like, yeah, I think you'll really want to see you watch Leave Her to Heaven, but um, I thought it was interesting. Uh, she didn't like the way she ends her own life. I thought it was going to be more sort of thematic, like almost like womb wise, because she was like having like either stomach pains or like womb pains. I think like in maybe a scene or two beforehand, but it kind of shows her. I think she gets like hit in the head by the train or something, or like jumps in it. I also
Mm.
thought it was going to be thematic with the guy at the beginning. Like it's a pretty grotesque death at the beginning for the train
Yeah.
worker, where his like guts are all out. So I thought they were going to like like. I'm kind of curious if like maybe they did that, but they were like it doesn't. It's almost too brutal of an ending for her. But I thought they were going to like come back to that.
They
That
do in
like
the
base
book.
is is that how she dies in the book, where it's like that
Yeah.
grotesque?
Yeah, because Vronsky comes back and sees her like one last time, and it's gnarly.
Is she like so her like guts are out and
Cut in
everything?
half. Cut in
Oh
half.
wow,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Okay, I'm proud of myself.
Yeah.
So wow, that's so weird. I wonder why do you think they did that? They did it for the train worker, but not Anna. I guess maybe too graphic.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't know because I don't think they wanted to show Keira Knightley in half. Like, probably just wanted to show like the spattered veil, and it's like you get what's going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a like so in the book, like Vronsky just goes to war after that. He just like
Mm.
plugs into his division and just is like a depressed dude fighting the Turks, I
That's a good
believe.
outlet as a dude, I feel
Yeah.
like if your love of your life gets cut in half by a train, I feel like having a good war is probably.
Yeah.
Oh,
And just like the guilt too, like he like blames himself and yeah, it's rough.
probably should. I
Hmm.
feel. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, but and his character is doing the best that he thinks he can because he's giving up all this stuff for her and it's
Yeah.
just relationships are such timing. Like, they could have
Yeah.
met before and it would have been fine, but because they met at this point, it just blows their lives up.
Yeah. Yeah. Going back to the it's sort of as a prison for him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay, so she gets ripped in half. I feel like thematically that would probably have been quite a shock to the audience. Maybe they were
Yeah.
concerned, you have to see Keira Knightley.
Maybe there's a test screening.
Yeah, I'd be
I don't know.
curious. I'd love to know. Okay, so getting into the 35 one. Yeah, this is the party with the
Yeah, that was really
gypsies.
cool.
Cool dress. And then yeah, she's in black robes. I mean, it's hard to tell. I'm pretty sure this is black with black and white.
Hmm.
She's got this locket on for a lot of the movie. And then I can't remember. Another great one.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is all
really cool dresses.
really cool dresses. I love this one in particular. This at the
Yeah.
party here.
Kitties.
Yeah.
It's her coming
Is
out
that Kitty?
ball.
See, that's how little
That's-
Kitty of a role has in the 35 one. I honestly,
Yeah,
I
right.
can't even think of who she is really.
Hmm.
Yeah, great flower dress. Yeah, I guess that would be Kitty. But yeah, this is not. I'm sorry, but no offense to Vronsky here, but that's just not. I think that's like the other part. Honestly, Vronsky and his brother look so similar in the,
Yeah.
first movie. It was kind of hard to tell them apart. But
Hmm.
yeah, I feel like you need not a
Yeah,
lot of chemistry.
I didn't get any chemistry from them.
Yeah,
I think
More
it's like
black.
Garbo is like a big name. I did like that though. I like his collar and his hat, just like barely letting one eye poke out.
yeah, that is good. More black from her than this one with the sheer is great.
Hmm.
The croquet outfit. This other lady's good. A lot of crazy. I mean, the hats are even so much bigger in this one. It's
Yeah.
yeah. This is the only dude fit. I was like, okay, I got to make sure and get this. I love this.
Quilted
Like, it looks,
robe.
yeah.
Oh man.
Whatever this is. Yeah. He's quite good in this.
Yeah.
His character reminds me. I don't know. Have you seen Casino? The Scorsese.
Oh shoot.
Um,
I don't think I have.
that's another one. I mean, it's probably the 30th recommendation, but like De Niro's character in that is like kind of pretty controlling and like wants everything in order and like wants to do in like a similar manner. This is the dynamic of him and Sharon Stone. It's such a great Sharon Stone performance in there. She probably could have done a great Anna Karenina as well.
Oh yeah.
But that's who he kind of reminded, because like there's a bunch of scenes in the movie of De Niro wearing a robe while he's like trying to make sure everything's in order. Reminded me very much of this guy. Yeah, great, elaborate. I don't even know.
I thought he should have looked worse actually. Like I thought he looked like better than Vronsky. Like you gotta make Karenin older. You gotta make him like kind of. He snatched like Anna up when she was 18. He was probably like in his 30s or something, or 40 maybe even. Like in the book, I can't remember if it gives the age gap, but it's like definitely like he's not. He's a well-respected guy.
his demeanor is very unsettling in this for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very by the book, very like.
Yeah. Is this Vronsky's mother, I think?
Yes, I
Well,
believe so.
Yeah. I like this fit. Good military fits. Yeah, she's in, I think this is the horse race one. She's got this like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I wonder if some horses really died in the filming
Yeah,
of
that
that
was
was gnarly.
I made a note about that. Like, I rail against CGI on my channel, but ethical use of CGI I think is to Hollywood has not been very good to horses
Yeah.
historically. So this is great. She just looks like it's like mid putting on this cloak, and she's back in black again. Pilly stuff. I think this is the kitty dress.
Yeah, the Kitty and Levin's wedding, like out of nowhere. I thought it
Yeah,
was a very beautiful shot, like, but it's just
yeah,
like very much like, okay, we're going back to them and they're getting married.
yeah. Another great. So I guess she's in white a little bit. This is probably my favorite look of hers. I think the framing in this with the bear,
Yeah.
obviously a big Russian symbology. I thought was tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
Her hair.
That's really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the same dress as like the other one at the opera. All these other ladies, and then the costumes on the it were good. The florals. I did like this again, different way to portray this shot, right? But everyone's sort of looking at her. Also,
Yeah.
kind of like surreal in its own way. This is a great hat fit combo. And then she gets sent out. I guess like now that I'm thinking about it, maybe even the 2012 one, she's more in black.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong. But
It's
then
just kind of,
sorry, go ahead.
it's weird. Like, I feel like Keira Knightley in black does not look like dour or like dark at
Yeah.
all.
She's so
Whereas
bubbly.
Garbo in black is like femme fatale. I'm feeling like,
Yeah. That is you think you said at the beginning about like the characterization in the 2012 one being so good because like in the book Karenina is like very bubbly and like full of energy. Garbo is not high energy
no.
in any of this really. She's just kind of resigned. It's honestly almost like a Marlene Dietrich type performance where she's
Yeah.
already like been through some stuff.
And her laugh's just like,
Yeah.
like fake
Yeah.
Northern European laugh.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't actually funny.
Yeah. Yeah, this I think she and I don't know if this is the one. I think she might have done the same movie in German. I can't remember if it's this movie, but
Oh,
I think she was a
interesting.
Swedish or German. I think she was Swedish, right?
Yeah.
But I think she might have like filmed this movie and then immediately filmed it again in German, like
Interesting.
maybe slightly differently with German actors and actresses.
In early
Which was, I think,
30s.
Yeah, they did that with Dracula. I haven't seen the Spanish Dracula, but apparently the Spanish Dracula is supposed to be really good. Like
Whoa,
the Todd
really?
Browning one is really good, but then they just like the week after they just filmed like a whole Spanish language Dracula that's supposed to be
Interesting.
very, very good. Yeah, then this is finally her death outfit, which I thought was probably the best sequence in that movie.
Yeah.
Especially musically, did it really well. But yeah, what's your number one? You think
I like the one with like those frills coming up here.
the frills
She's
with
in
the
white.
bear? Is it this one, or am I thinking of
Yes, yeah.
with the
one was-
bear? Yeah, good fits in both these. If you just like the costumes, I think you'll have a good time watching both of these. I would
Yeah,
say.
I think 2012 won for costumes.
Yeah,
Costume design.
I believe
The
so.
Oscars, I mean.
Yeah,
But yeah.
that's cool. Thanks for doing fits. That's
Yeah,
fun.
no problem. My
Shout out to my fashion fans.
I know, right? Like they're like, what is this? This guy has nothing to add on. He's like, let me talk about Kafka some more.
No, I mean
Yeah.
that's to your point
That's
about
good.
like
Yeah. But that's the thing that is like
yeah.
kind of I've gotten from literature, like like specifically reading Virginia Woolf. I see colors differently now. Like it's like
Mm,
it's the first time I've seen like purple in like a sky and called it purple. You know, so like there's so many blind spots for me, and fashion is one of them. I recognize stuff that like I like immediately, but to really be looking for it is something that's kind of like a muscle I need to flex a little bit more just to because I from gut instinct know what I like, but it's hard to picture like pin down like, okay, yeah, I'd like this, you know.
yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's been interesting learning for me too because I've always honestly loved all that stuff. I love costume design, everything else, but I have zero language. Just from honestly from previous relationships and stuff. Like, and this is the only sort of like language I have to talk about it. But it's kind of the point of the podcast too, of like, why I want to talk to a lot of non-movie people is like, out of someone who primarily reads books and like likes books and music more, like how do you engage with the art form? I don't think there's any one way to do it. So I love all that.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. So in terms of, we'll get into final thoughts here. So I would say final thoughts on for me, if you, I would say, if you like the novel, seems like the 2012 version is better. And from this convo, I would say just as a movie too, I would do the 2012 one. I think is going to be more. The 35 one is really. You can watch the first scene and the last scene, and then like if you're a really big movie guy, you can or if you're a big Greta Garbo fan. But aside from that, it's kind of there's so many other movies of that time frame. Or if you want like a 30s 40s thing, I would watch those first. But the 2012 one I think is one of the better historical things that I've seen in the last so many years. Even though I do have my issues, I still think, I will say, I don't think it makes me really want to adapt it myself as a filmmaker, because I don't think the perfect Anna Karenina has been done yet, which is like,
right.
But I don't know. Yeah. What about you? What would you?
Same. I could leave the 35. I don't, just for the Garbo completists out there, but, at 2012, I love like the choices. I love a weird choice in a movie. So like the theater really worked for me. I love it. I'm not like the biggest Keira Knightley person, but I love her as Anna Karenina. I think the casting is really well done. And, I think it's worth a watch. It's, as far as like the book goes, like it might be kind of hard to jump into Anna Karenina if like you haven't, been reading a lot of like stuff from the 1800s, just because it is very dense, takes its time. But I was gonna make, if you don't mind me, make a recommendation if anybody's wanting to get into like Tolstoy. The Death of Ivan Ilyich is a short story that kind of encapsulates his like penchant for describing how families work and also describing how death works, because like in every Tolstoy story somebody dies and you're like, there's no way Tolstoy knows how this feels. He's describing death as it's happening, and it's like the most beautiful and most sad thing you've ever read. And so if you read The Death of Ivan Ilyich, you'll be like, okay, I want to dive more in, Anna Karenina might be a good next step for that. But as far as other stuff, like if you like want to get into Russian literature, but you're like just like, I want to like dip my toes in like the themes first, I think John Steinbeck, East of Eden is like a big kind of like Western counterpart to Russian literature, because it deals with like family drama, good and evil, predestination versus free will, and just set in California instead of St. Petersburg or Moscow.
I'd love to see that. Yeah, that's Rebel Without a Cause and Giant. Just watched in the last year. I've seen Rebel Without a Cause a bunch of times, but James Dean, right?
Yeah.
So the movie. So
the movie of what did I just call it?
East of Eden.
East of Eden with James Dean is it's not a good representation of the book, but it is an amazing, like, the choices made by James Dean are so bonkers, and I love it so much. Like, he is acting, he is like doing stuff in that movie is wild.
Yeah, he's a fascinating on-screen performer. Maybe that'll be the next episode. Maybe we could do East of Eden and like Leave Her to Heaven. That'd be a good.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be an interesting pairing. Yeah. Okay, so East of Eden would be like the Western adaptation of it.
If you don't want to keep track of all the names and pet names and like surnames and.
Is the horse really named Frou Frou?
Yeah.
I would kind of change. That's the my dream adaptation of this. I might change that.
Yeah.
Not that I don't like the Frou Frou, but like it kind of took me out of it just a little, because I was like, I feel like there's just a better pet. It just is like I struggle with that when I read like Russian literature, when it's like really faithfully adapted. when they're like, I think in Chekhov and Uncle Vanya or something, like they're constantly saying like, well, let me tell you something, Ivan Ivanovich, or let me tell you something, Alexei Alexeyevich. And it's like,
Yeah.
I would just kind of like, I get that that's how you do it in there, but like it's a translation. So maybe just say, let me say you something, Alexei. Like, I don't think you need like the patronym or whatever, or maybe you do. I don't know, but
what's crazy how much translation affects the feel of these books. Like,
yeah.
so it's like, if you want to get into Russian literature, just do a little bit of like cursory, like Google search, like, hey, which translation of this should I do? And it's like, this person has this style of translation, this person has this, it's another barrier of entry, but I think it's worth it.
It's fascinating. Going back to the Tacoma, when I was at Puget Sound in a classics major, I took a whole class on Homer as one of them, and we just read the Odyssey. It was wonderful. It was one of my favorite classes. But yeah, that introduced me to the concept, like the idea of going, like, we spent a whole thing on the word kleos in Greek. It means like glory, and like it's like almost impossible to describe. But he also, it's like the professor talked about, like, this idea of a Greek hero is like, the way we use the word hero is generally very it's like a good person. It's like, Superman's a hero or whatever. But to the Greeks, it meant more something like weird, like just someone kind of on the edges of society, or like on the edges of human behavior. So like, if you think that like most people fit between like whatever the norm of behavior is of like 20%, like let's say from a bad 0 to 100% good, it's like a hero would exist not in the 20,
on the margins,
but he would exist on the margins, like both good and bad. So like, shout out the baseball player Barry Bonds or something, right? But like, or like Michael Jordan being like this huge, like notorious asshole, like degenerate gambler and everything. It's like, well, that's a Greek hero, because it's like he both has this, like, he's the meanest person ever to his teammates or whatever, but he's also like this, like, athletic genius and all that, which I thought was a more probably accurate representation of like most sports figures and most famous people. It's like, they seem to have it right, that we just kind of lost that. So I can't imagine even for Russian, like, like 100 years ago, the translation stuff. Is there like a specific translator that you would recommend for Tolstoy, or that you found, or
for Tolstoy,
is there like a version?
Which is the version I just read of War and Peace? It was good. Like, the go-to has always been Constance Garnett. She was just this British woman who fell in love with Russian literature, and she translated all of Tolstoy's stuff and all of Dostoevsky's stuff, probably a lot more, but hers read a little more like they have a feel of like a British, like, period piece,
Mm-hmm.
So if you're more used to a Jane Austen book or something, or Charlotte Bronte, then maybe pick up the Constance Garnett translation.
Okay.
But they do have like there's a part in one of my favorite book from Dostoevsky, The Brothers Karamazov, where there's kind of a part that has Old English. For some reason, she put Old English into this one story, and it's better without it. So it's tough. You kind of have to, like, find your style of what translation you like, but I think it's worth it. I think like Russian literature has been really influential for me. It's like changed how I view things.
Interesting. Yeah, I think so I'm going to go Dreamcasting here. I'm going to go Anna Jean Tierney. I'm going to say Vronsky. I'm going to go Burt Lancaster or Glenn Ford. I think, like, I kind of would have liked to see, I don't know if you've seen Gilda or any.
I want to, though. I saw your videos on it. It looks really good.
Glenn Ford, he's like the horniest guy I think ever in Hollywood, and he does such a good job in Gilda of, like, sort of helping, like, set up the idea of how seductive Gilda, like Rita Hayworth, is in the movie. But he also just has like this sort of, like, he has this weird combination in the Delmer Days movies, like 3:10 to Yuma and Jubal specifically, where he's like extremely masculine, but he's also like just very sensitive. He's just like kind of like this sort of like more like, he just sells the idea of like falling head over heels from like a loneliness thing that I think he could do a really good Vronsky. In a way that Burt Lancaster would be more of a, I think Vronsky's supposed to be younger, right? Or how old is he in the?
Yeah, he's younger than Anna.
He's younger than, oh, okay.
Yeah, Anna's
I
think
Burt
30.
wouldn't work. Yeah, I like older Burt Lancaster when he's like in his The
Hmm.
Swimmer is really good, which is a surreal. He's trying to swim. Another movie recommendation, but he's swimming across like it's a surreal movie from the 70s where he's swimming across people's backyard pools to try and get back to his home, and he's
Oh,
like, but he's having
interesting.
like a mental breakdown while doing it. It's like a, it's hard to
That
describe.
sounds great.
Yeah, it's a genius movie. Um, yeah, it's really, it's a bizarre movie, but it's really really good. And yeah, also he's in The Leopard, which is good. So I'd say Glenn Ford, Gene Tierney. Husband, I would go with Arthur Kennedy or Lance Henriksen. Weirdly enough, Lance Henriksen, you know, 80s 90s sort of villainous bad guy.
Oh
But
yeah.
Arthur Kennedy was the guy who originated, I think, Biff on Death of a Salesman. He's in a couple of videos on my channel that he has
Yeah.
like just a great stage actor. I think for the new lady, you got to go Marilyn Monroe or Dorothy Malone, like whoever the daughter is that the Vronsky mom is trying
Oh
to pair
right.
her
Yeah.
off
Yeah.
to. Yeah, I think they did. Cara Delevingne's good casting because she's like immediately just kind of like this kind of stunning, like very noticeable. And I thought
Hmm.
the other lady too was pretty good casting in the 30s one.
To send
Um,
Anna over the edge,
yeah,
jealousy.
yeah, yeah. And then I think I hadn't thought about Lennon and Katie, but Lennon would be Van Heflin, who I love, and he's in Shane and in 310 to Yuma as like this kind of like sort of genial, like kind of all like I don't want to say all American, but he's like this sort of genial kind of family guy who's trying to like overcome some stuff and like find his courage and like he was that, but then he was super good in this movie Possessed as well. So he's just a tremendous actor.
Possessed,
And
is
then
that's not like the what year is that from?
47, the Joan
40s, okay.
Crawford, another great movie
Oh,
about lady struggling against her her condition and like but she's just like it's more of an like an intro movie about mental illness than like
right.
some of these other ones,
Yeah, I
but
saw
still
your
really
videos on
good.
that too. Like there's so many
Yeah.
that I'm like, okay, I need to watch that. I need to watch that. You know, watch
Yeah,
that.
there's a whole list. This might be added to my. I have a whole list on Letterboxd about like the most down bad women of all time. There's like I have a list for that. Which is this is not really. I don't necessarily. I thought the more interesting thing wasn't like you could definitely portray this like really sexually as a story. I think like you could make those choices about like
Hmm.
Anna being so like romantically sexually frustrated. I think the societal stuff is way more interesting.
Yeah.
So I think like there's a repressed side of that part which like Leave Her to Heaven. There's a movie called The Innocents that's really disturbing that actually I think that's next week's episode after this one.
Hmm.
um that's like more of a horror movie. It's based on the which it's you might have read the book actually. It's one of there's been like 60 movies based on this book, um The Turn of the Screw by Henry James.
No, I haven't.
um Gothic horror novella by Henry James. There's like been a whole bunch of movies. The Nightcomers by Marlon Brando is also based on it, and it's like a
Interesting.
yeah. But yeah, I think anything where you know you could throw like All About Eve. You could throw so many of these like 50s melodramas where women are sort of struggling against their position. I would love to
Yeah.
see the video series of videos I just did by Dorothy Arzner about Christopher Strong. About like I would have loved to see a Dorothy Arzner version of this. So I'd be
Hmm.
curious because I know a lot of her as the only working woman director of the 30s in Hollywood. A lot of her movies sort of play in this sandbox.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, I don't know who modern, so hopefully there's some Van Heflins and Gene Tierney's, and if I ever get to do it
Yeah.
now, like I really want to like the writer in me is like you know, and the filmmakers like God, want to adapt this because like
I mean, you should
yeah
read it, man. I mean, it's a tough one to get through in some parts, but it's worth the juice is worth the squeeze. It's like, and it's like there's no. That's why you can't really have stuff like media like this anymore, where it's like you have to get through 800 pages to get a
mm,
payoff. You have to sit with these people and kind of be with them when they're struggling or when they're like vacillating between two different ideas or can't make up their minds. I think a lot of that stuff gets cut out in our modern media because you just don't want to see that. But
mm,
sitting with the characters in this, you really get the point driven home when they do have a realization, like because you were with them through that crap.
yeah
So I think it's worth it. I think it's worth getting into. I mean, it's one of the best, supposed to be one of the best novels ever written. And I think the Levin stuff makes more sense because it goes into like it is very much like Tolstoy, like this is me.
Yeah. Well,
This is my
not
struggles
to
too.
say that I can't identify with, because writing and all art, as we talked about, is like a thing for empathy, right? But certainly as a dude who's now talking about fashion quite a bit, like the idea of a dude like the Lenin storyline, sort of struggling against like the expectations of him as like
Hmm.
a, and like sort of like trying to find himself and like whatever else. Yeah, as a late coming dude to all that stuff. Yeah, I'd be curious to see how much I connect with that part of it.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting.
Did you grow up very like religious or spiritual or anything?
No, I mean, kind of the opposite. My
Yeah,
parents
you're
are kind
saying
of, yeah,
your was it grandma was like a first wave feminist or
yeah,
second,
yeah. She
not
was.
first wave?
I don't know what wave she was. She got her bachelor's in the 40s. So
Oh,
like
okay.
she went to I think Bryn Mawr. Shout out Bryn Mawr in like 40, and she was a geologist along with my grandpa.
Hmm.
They're both like these cool geologist people.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then
Yeah, so like
just nothing.
yeah, the spiritual stuff from Tolstoy might not hit like for me
A
like
lot of my
my
friends did though, because I grew up in East Tennessee.
okay, yeah.
Did you grow up religious?
Yeah, yeah. And
Gotcha.
it's still a part of my life. I really value you know, thinking about that kind of stuff. I love like Tolstoy distills it down to like um mankind grasping for the infinite. Like,
Hmm.
because Levin's struggle is like he sees like he's gonna die. Like everybody around him, everybody he loves is gonna die. Like, what's the point? And so Tolstoy is grappling with that himself, and he's trying to like figure out why we have this longing for the infinite. And
Mm.
so if you just kind of distill it down to that and take away the religion, like Tolstoy eventually just was like, hey, I'm not going to any church. Like they've all got it backwards. I'm just focusing on these core beliefs
Mm.
and like, don't hurt anyone, treat others as you want to be treated and try to
Mm.
live your life for like a higher purpose.
Yeah.
So it's easy to kind of get dissuaded, just like with it's easy to get dissuaded from reading Tolstoy, being like, I don't want to read this guy talk about religion at the end of this 800-page book. It's not like that. And just like it's easy for a dude to be like, I'm not going to read Virginia Woolf. She's like a feminist like writer, right? She wrote,
Yeah.
A Room of One's Own. That's the only thing I know of her. Virginia Woolf writes women and men like amazingly, like internal like thoughts and just blowing up a thought into like a whole like page and pages of like what the person is feeling. Doesn't matter. Woman, man, kid, like old person, she's just a master at doing that. And so it's like I there's these people that like, I wish I could have that disclaimer in front of like all these like different writers, because
Yeah.
it's not really that black and white.
Yeah. That's I do, if people take nothing away else from my channel, I hope that's like one of the things I'm trying to emulate is like I am as excited as for like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie as I am for like Anna Karenina, because like
Hmm.
they're the same, like honestly more excited at this point for Anna Karenina, because like most Arnold movies are, a lot of them are just, I mean, he's a bad example because he makes so many great movies, but like the empathy of like, it's just one of the strongest things art can do for you, I think, and like help you. It's
Yeah.
like the empathy of like looking through other people, even just as your own life. I mean, I don't know how, like the idea, it really, it doesn't make any sense to me that a dude could like look at even this, any of the, either of these movies or like any of these things that are like, quote unquote women's, like, focused on women or whatever, and be like, yeah, I don't identify, like there's nothing I can, like, even if it's like to the point, there's not like, if I can't imagine saying like there's nothing I can like empathize
Right.
with or take
Yeah.
away from that, even if it's like the very personal thing of like, I do want to see, I'd be curious now to read the book about the Lenin storyline, because like, if that is the case, then I think it's an aspect that I didn't necessarily get from either of the two movies about like as
Hmm.
much of like the dude struggling against it, but even just like empathetically putting yourself in like the woman's shoes. It's just like the idea of being on is horrifying. It's like, it's just like,
Yeah.
and yeah, being stuck in there. So
What's more
hopefully,
horrifying, being stuck or being like, having your life torn apart and, just
and she, yeah. Well, and she can't even. There's not even a good. I think that's even the most horrifying. Well, there's not even a good outcome for her. Like it's
right.
not even like,
Either
at
way.
least yeah, it's like,
She's
not
doomed.
to not to get too much personal history, but like even me starting getting working, and so I'll just use the software example, but like me working in there and then starting talking about more about movies and so on, it's like I at least can do that, right? It's like I at least can like start a little channel and like have this other way of like expressing myself that's not in this like really
Yeah.
stupid industry and awful place that I hate. Um, but like, it's like, what is her like? What she can be? She be a mistress, never see her kids again, not be able to get married. Like, there's not even a way for
Yeah.
her to get out of it. And like
Yeah.
that's worse horror than like anything I can imagine. Like,
Right.
so
Is stuck in a
um,
loveless marriage with a pearl encrusted uh condom, multi-use
oh
condom.
God,
That
yeah,
was such a choice. That wasn't in the book, but that was like very much like just the horror of the perfunctory like husband wife sexual experience, like unboxing
yeah,
the condom.
awful, yeah.
uh,
Okay, so I guess I said to wrap it up before, but now to wrap it up, I would say it's funny, I feel like we barely scratch the surface. I feel this every episode, but it's almost like we barely scratch the
yeah,
surface of everything. Um, so I'd say Rex, Leave Her to Heaven for sure. I would love to do an episode with that with you.
yeah,
The Leopard, if you just like sort of historical sort of jaunts, The Leopard and Giant. If you want more of like women struggling against their societal expectations, I would do Mademoiselle, 1960 something by Tony Richardson, is a really, really great movie, with one of the most beautifully shot movies. If you go way back on my TikTok channel, you can see some of the cinematography of it.
yeah.
That's a great one. Persona by Ingmar Bergman's another.
Oh, I freaking love Persona.
What's interesting? I
So
just
good.
controversial again. It was okay for me. Like I love. It's weird that
Yeah,
I love everything that like was inspired by it. All of David Lynch's stuff, everything that sort of came after it that was like so obviously just like doing Persona in different ways. But Persona itself, I think I need to rewatch it for whatever reason. And
yeah.
then the Death in Venice would be it's so different, but another historical one by the guy who did The Leopard by Luchino Visconti, which is based on a Thomas Mann book, I think. But that is about sort of the idea of like your like sort of it has a lot of stuff of like the architecture of Venice and like your surroundings, sort of also like pairing with your decay and like it's
Oh,
like very concerned with like your death and like seeing
yeah.
beauty and like not so like the scenes, it kind of reminded me of like the scenes of like Anna seeing how she sort of thought about Kitty, or the younger one that Vronsky's mom is trying to set him up with.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's a weird, Dirk Bogarde and Luchino Visconti. And yeah, I would say if you want something completely the opposite, watch The Towering Inferno, which is about a building being set on fire in the 70s, and it has Steve McQueen and
All right,
I think
I've
O.J.
got
Simpson's in there somewhere. Fred Astaire.
um
Yeah, what's
I
the
had
most
a
opposite movie to this that you've ever
I
seen?
know that you threw that one. I wish I had time to think about that. I would say like my I had two recs for this. If you like the Levin side of things, like the life with the peasants and like the religious stuff, Fiddler on the Roof I love that movie. I'm just using this as an
Okay,
excuse to talk about Fiddler on the Roof, but it's
absolutely. I've not
even
seen it.
though even though it's like the Russians are the bad guys in Fiddler on the Roof, but it just has a lot of
You talking about the 1971 version?
yeah, yeah. It's just
Okay.
got a lot of like um great like religious stuff. He's like always just talking to God, like he's talking to his friend, and interesting. Like it's interesting because it's like I think it's like I watched a YouTube video on how it's like that's like the beginning of New Hollywood, and the thing I love about films from the 70s is like at one point he disowns a daughter because she's gonna marry a Russian guy and turn Orthodox. So he like
Hmm.
disowns his daughter, and the movie doesn't like make any comment on whether that was good or bad. They just show you sitting with his this like pain and the struggle between like his faith and his like family. And so it's like a lighthearted musical, but it's also like super heavy in parts. For the Anna side of things, I would recommend the Vordelak. I think it came out a couple years ago.
The
It's
Villa, you said?
the Vordelak. I think I'm
The
saying that right.
Vordelak, okay.
You know what I'm talking about? It's
Vordelak.
like it's a French movie.
I don't think no, I haven't heard of it. The Vordel 2023?
Yeah. It's
Okay.
it's set in I think the 1800s. It's set in France. The only thing it has to do with Anna Karenina is like if you go into it thinking like love can kill us, love can
Hmm.
destroy us. That's kind of a theme of the Vordelak, and it has going along with 2012 Anna Karenina. It has really cool practical effects. It was shot on film, and it has a marionette as
Oh,
the bad
cool.
guy. So I think
Oh,
it's
wow.
worth checking out.
Drama
One is
horror?
what's that?
Yeah. Is it drama horror? 2023 French drama horror film.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool. I've never even heard of this. I will,
yeah. I forget why. I think my wife was like, "Hey, we should watch this." And I was like, "Okay." And it's like, "Oh, this is actually super cool. Like really,
yeah,
really well done."
that sounds
But
great.
yes,
I love the idea of a marionette.
yeah, it's really cool practical effects in that. And as far as a movie that's absolutely nothing like this, dang. Uh, yeah, keep talking. Oh, I now I can't stop thinking. Like, what is a movie that's not anything like this?
I can give you, I mean, you can say Die Hard. You can say like any action movie, right? Like any,
I could. That's the easy
not
way.
a, that's the easy way. Yeah. Spaceballs. We go back to the Mel Brooks. If you want to see a
Yeah,
guy who's read a bunch of Russian literature and then what they did with it, you can watch Spaceballs or Blazing Saddles or Young Frankenstein.
yeah.
All those are great.
Okay, how about Divorce Italian Style? That'll be one that's nothing like. I
That's so
love that
funny.
movie.
I haven't seen that. Is it good?
It's yes, it's really good. Just Italian. It's like a dark comedy about trying to get rid of your wife. Very not feminist. Very
I'll have to tell you a story about that off the pod. I don't think I can tell it on the pod, but
yeah.
someday extra content for people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Yeah, well, that's awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Sounds like
Yeah,
we have
thanks,
another
man.
episode as
I
well.
really
So
appreciate it. Um,
likewise.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Any last thoughts or closing things you want to get out there? Follow you
Um,
on. You can say check out the Mixed
yeah,
podcast, right?
yeah, mixed tapes, feelings, and drinks. Mixed. Was it colon? It's the two
Mixed
dots.
colon. Yeah. Tapes, feeling, and drinks.
Tapes, feelings, and drinks.
And then check out
Um,
dear underscore idiot underscore reader on TikTok.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So check out what I'm listening to, what I'm reading, if you want. And yeah,
Sounds good.
thank
His
you
channel's
for.
really good.
I appreciate it. Yours is awesome. Like I said, like I'm like struggling. Like I read like 1,300 pages of something and like condense it down to like 2 minutes, and then I'm like, well, this
Yeah.
is I'd
It's
like,
easier
and
with movies. I can just put clips, and then talk over it.
yeah, right. And I'm trying to
Yeah.
like get like just footage of stuff like for my day-to-day life that I'm capturing, and I never remember to do that. But when yeah, it's a whole
B-roll.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I appreciate it,
Cool.
man. Thanks for talking to me and hearing me out on Russian literature and stuff. So my
Absolutely.
friends
Thanks
don't
for
have
teaching
to.
me. Yeah. Now I'll read Anna Karenina. So I feel like
Yeah.
it's good. All right. Well, I'll see
All
you.
right.
Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Till next time.